This is a true crime discussions channel. We speculate. This is all just speculation. Because it's true crime, it's for mature audiences only. There will be no children allowed, no exceptions. Everything on this channel falls under fair use. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. It's free.
Hey y'all, I was looking at the missing children. Please remember those families tomorrow while we're with our families. Remember all the people out there that are missing children or missing loved ones, and keep them in your thoughts and prayers, as well as all the indigenous people that unfortunately died because of, everything. So remember them tomorrow too and say a prayer. I want to say hey to y'all. Hey, Jenny Jen and She3PO and Zio and Bad Girl and Serena and Joy. Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to, I'm going to try to come live tomorrow. I'm going to do my best as long as I'm not too busy cooking, but I try to remember I try to remember all the indigenous lives that were lost because of, us coming here and settling. And while I do look at it as time to spend with my family and remember what to be thankful for, I try to remember those that died as well. So with that, we're going to talk about the Menendez brothers today. And I wanted to go kind of back to the beginning. I want to play this 911 call and look at a few things from the beginning. And then we will talk about some of the things that's been going on recently. To play this one, I am going to have to do some background music. Hold on. I don't think we'll do that one. Let me see. Okay, maybe that one will work. Okay. Hey, Amanda. Thank you for being here. So this is going to be, hopefully that won't be too loud. This is the 911 call of the Menendez brothers. Let me turn it down just a little bit. And this is from a YouTube channel called Menendez Case, and it's titled Menendez Brothers 911 Call. So we'll start with this, and this should be the only thing I have to put music behind. I just don't want to get a copyright strike. Hey, Shaboogies, thank you for being here. Hey, Anders, thank you for being here.
Pardon me?
I think it stopped playing my music. It did. That's part of the problem. Okay, so now I know that. So I'm going to make sure to pause every few seconds and talk, if y'all can deal with that. Again, this is the 911 call of the Menendez brothers, August 21st of 1989 or August 19th or 20th of 1989, all the way from Beverly Hills.
What? Who? Are they still there?
Yes.
The people?
No.
Were they shot? Were they shot?
Yes.
So he's saying someone killed my parents. Were they? And the 911 operator is asking, were they shot? And he's saying yes. And he's hollering at his brother Eric. So this is obviously Lyle.
They were shot?
Yes.
What happened?
He's hollering, Eric, stay there. The 911 operators are asking what happened.
I have a hysterical person on. I'm trying to get things further. Other than this is funny.
She said, I have a hysterical person. I'm trying to get someone out there, and I couldn't catch the rest of it. The video of the crime scene was taken 3:28 a.m. August 21st of 1989.
Is the person still there?
What happened?
She said, is the person still there? He's saying, I don't think so. Thank you, Jenny, for the trigger warning. I need to put my banner up real quick. I apologize about that. They're asking what happened, and now there's a man on the phone that is also helping this female 911 operator try to get the information out of Lyle, who is hysterical.
We have units around. What happened? Who shot who?
So he's telling them, we got units en route. His story is, I don't know who shot them. I wasn't here. I just came home.
Came home and found who shot.
You know if they're still in the house, the people that did the shooting. Get away from them.
He's hollering at Eric, get away from them. I wonder what Eric was doing in that moment.
Okay, hey, let me talk to Eric. Who is the person that was shot?
I wonder, so Eric's obviously hysterical at the same time, or that's at least what Lyle's saying, anyway.
My mom and my dad.
Your mom and dad?
My mom and my dad.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, we're on our way over there with an ambulance.
Okay, I gotta go.
Okay.
So that was the end of that 911 call. And the units say, we're on the way over with an ambulance, and he's like, okay, I gotta go.
Oh.
Hello, this is the police department.
Yes.
Okay, I want you to come outside. Okay, just come out the front door.
I never tell my brother.
So that is, they're then told that they have to come outside. All right, I'm going to close out of this video now because I don't need all of that. We'll pick that up on Court TV, so I know I won't get in trouble. Are y'all ready for Thanksgiving tomorrow? I am working on it, trying to get some stuff together and go ahead and make, the desserts. Hold on just a minute. Let me go all the way down. Okay. So, I know that it ended in a mistrial. We can start with this. This is titled Netflix, The Menendez Brothers Director Joins Vinnie Politan Investigates. So we can start there and hopefully it'll bring us up to date. Maybe not. We can start at that one and it should bring us up to date and give us all the information we need on the Menendez Brothers trial that's been going on. I got my stuff from Walmart, C3PO. You just have to do the cake to do. You just have the cake to do and the deviled eggs. Everything else is done. Girl, I wish I had everything else done. I got sidetracked. Hold on just a minute.
And the subject of my investigation is the Menendez brothers. It was the first huge trial on Court TV. And now, 30 years later, everyone is talking about it again because of a very popular Netflix series and a new Netflix documentary. And now some folks are questioning what happened at those trials. Here's the story. It is one of Court TV's most legendary trials, the Menendez brothers, Lyle and Eric. In 1989, their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, were murdered. It was a shocking crime scene that looked like a mob hit. Jose.
So Anders said, I think Thanksgiving is a very American holiday celebrating the Mayflower or something like that. No, what it celebrates is, when the English settlers first came over, the winter was really harsh and a lot of people died. And the Native Americans showed them how to grow food, and food that they grew over here because they were here first, obviously. And so they made a holiday at the end of basically the harvest season and they all came together and they shared food and ate together as, you know, the colonists and the Native Americans basically had a meal together, from what I understand. Now, I've heard since then that there was a lot of slaughter and murder and all of that going on. So I try to be, I try to watch what I say about it, kind of, because I really don't want to offend anybody. And if we're being truthful about it, we did come over and take their land. And I'll leave it at that, because I don't want to start a whole political thing. Some people celebrate it, some people don't. Some people think it's horrible if you do celebrate it. I celebrate coming together with my family and having a meal. And, you know, we always watch information about Native Americans, you know, I like the tribal dances, or, you know, I do something educational in that aspect to basically pay homage to the Native Americans on Thanksgiving. But that's just me.
They and Kitty were shot several times as they sat on their couch eating ice cream and watching a movie. At first, Eric and Lyle were treated as victims, but when their therapist's ex-girlfriend came forward with information that the brothers had confessed during therapy sessions, everything changed. Eventually, the brothers were charged. At trial,
I'm so sorry, Jenny. I am so sorry. If you need to email me to talk, please do so. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Hey, True Crime Addict.
they claimed to be the victims of sex abuse and violence. The first juries could not reach a unanimous verdict, and there was a mistrial. But when they were retried, they were convicted and sentenced to life without parole. And now there is new attention on this case with a hit series on Netflix, and now a new documentary on Netflix about the Menendez brothers. As a result, some are calling for the brothers to get out, alleging that the second trial was not fair, and 3 decades behind bars is enough.
So a lot of people are now talking about the Menendez brothers. I mean, it's been a while. It's literally been decades since the trial, but there is so much conversation, and a lot of it is about what's happening on Netflix. You had the series Monsters, which is...
So that gives you somewhat of an idea of what happened and kind of why we're talking about it today.
with actors and scripts and everything else, and that has some people riled up about it. But now there's a new documentary, right? So it's not actors, it's the actual people involved in the case, including Lyle and Eric speaking out together. I wanted you to take a look at this. This is the trailer for this new Netflix documentary called The Menendez Brothers.
Everyone asks why we kill our parents. Maybe now people can understand the truth. My name is Eric Menendez. My name is Lyle Menendez, calling you from Donovan Correctional Facility. Lyle was the only person that had ever protected me. What happened?
So this is going to be the trailer for the Netflix show. If you guys haven't seen it and want to watch it, I haven't seen it yet. So I'm kind of seeing what all is new and the new things going on with you guys in real time. Hello, Kitty. Thank you for being here.
It is very well known, but so much hasn't been told.
If anyone had written this for a script in Hollywood, the Hollywood people would have gone, no way.
The Menendez case is one of the most infamous criminal trials in America. The brothers accused of the murder of their wealthy parents in Beverly Hills.
It was like an incredible soap opera.
Jose was a successful businessman. Kitty was the caring mother. 2 boys, emblematic of wealth and privilege. Why would you kill your parents?
So Anders, it's coming out now, and I think it had been mentioned in the first trial that they were SA'd by their father. Yes. I saw a short, and I'll have to see if I can find it after we watch this segment, but it showed the dad in like pictures with the boys before they did it, and he always had his hands somewhere kind of inappropriate. So it led people to believe that. from what I've heard, and I haven't heard a lot, but I think somebody else came out because their dad like was some kind of music manager or music artist. Like he promoted musicians or something to that effect, something to do with musicians. And at like years later, these musicians that he had helped in their music careers early on came out and stated how he had SA'd them. And that made people look back at this case and say, well, maybe they were telling the truth. Thank you, Sarah. He was a music producer. And a lot of people came out and said that he had SA'd them, and that made people look back at this and state how, give it a second look and say maybe they were telling the truth. So that's kind of what brought this back out, and now people are trying to get them a new trial and all of that.
As the prosecutor, I knew it was plain old greed.
There was a media spectacle from the beginning, so we were not the ones who told the story of our life. We looked like the perfect family, but behind the walls, something very wrong was happening.
What did he do to you? Now there's a TikTok movement to free the Menendez.
There's a new generation that's for brothers.
People are looking at the case with fresh eyes.
2 kids don't commit this crime for money. And there's people that believe I shouldn't spend the rest of my life in prison.
That judge was determined he was going to get a conviction.
These kids went through some horrible things. I'm telling you now, it's all fake. And if you don't know it's fake, that pisses me off.
There is no evidence saying they're not guilty.
We would much rather lose the murder trial than talk about the 6 secrets of the family.
So that's going to be the documentary on Netflix.
So now you know the difference, right? This isn't actors, which is fine.
And so that's giving you again some idea on what's going on and what's new about the case, what's changed since the time they were tried. And we can, if I have time, we'll go over some of their original testimony and stuff.
You can watch that series. These are the actual brothers telling their story together for the first time, which brings me to my first question of our investigation, which is all about Lyle and Eric. What are the Menendez brothers saying now? What's their story now, 30 years later? Joining me, folks, the director of this new Netflix documentary, The Menendez Brothers, Alejandro Hartman, is joining us. Alejandro, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
First question, how do you get Eric and Lyle to do this together? And I mean, we've never heard them tell their story together before.
Well, it was a long road, to have both of the brothers. We first started with Lyle. Lyle never talked over the 30 years, I think, since the 90s. He didn't talk. But Eric participated in some documentaries. So he didn't want to talk at the beginning, Eric. But Lyle said yes, maybe.
So that's interesting. Why didn't Eric want to talk at the beginning? Lyle was evidently all about it. Hello Kitty says, I think the jury decision should stand unless there is an appellate issue that gets them a new trial or the governor grants clemency. Yeah, the original trial should stand. And if, I understand that SA is looked on differently, but maybe give them some type of parole because they still unalived their parents. Unfortunately, there are people out here dealing with SA on a daily basis. There are, God, heaven help them, that there are unfortunately children, good God forbid, that are dealing with that kind of stuff, unfortunately, on a daily basis, and they haven't unalived their parents. People have grown up and dealt with things like that haven't unalived their parents. They did. If you want to go back and revisit the issue of maybe parole, okay, with some kind of monitoring, but at the end of the day, they still committed this horrendous crime. And you're going to open a door for a whole bunch of other people to try to do the same thing. And I've heard that they were like contrabanding cell phones into the prison and breaking prison rules. One of them was married and then had a 21-year-old girlfriend, which, you know, they didn't get to live their young adult life. I understand that. But at the same time, have you really changed? Is your thought process different than it was when you went in? Shaboogie says, that's weird. I thought I heard Lyle was the harder one to interview. He hadn't been interviewed in many years. Eric was always outspoken. I think that's what he said. I will look at it again. There are many people in prison who are SA'd and also want to be released. Yeah. Shaboogies. Okay, so I could be wrong. I heard that somewhere, but I will check and see what I can find on it and pull it up. So I'll pull that up just to double check myself. And then when I find it, I will put it up here because I could be wrong. You could be right. So I will look into that and see what I can find real quick. Yeah, that's what I heard, that Lyle or one of them got caught with a cell phone and they were talking to people. But I could be wrong. I will look for that. Okay, Shaboogies, hold on. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. I'm going to play this and drop the link, and I'll back it up. I think he said that Eric was the harder one to interview. We'll listen to that part again.
30 years later. Joining me, folks, the director of this new Netflix documentary, The Menendez Brothers, Alejandro Hartman, is joining us. Alejandro, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
First question, how do you get Eric and Lyle to do this together? And I mean, we've never heard them tell their story together before.
Well, it was a long road, you know, to get to have both of the brothers. We first started with Lyle. Lyle never talked over the 30 years, I think, since the 90s. He didn't talk, but Eric participated in some documentaries. So he didn't want to talk at the beginning, Eric. But Lyle said yes, maybe because I'm not American.
So Lyle, evidently, from what I'm hearing, Lyle had not been interviewed much, and Eric had. But at this particular time, Eric didn't really want to talk, and Lyle did. And you asked who cares about a cell phone? Well, not many people, but in prison, you're not allowed to have them. And if you are breaking the rules and getting a cell phone in, then it shows that you're not basically following the rules, you know. So that is an issue. I don't know about their other prison records, and you know, that could be the only thing they ever did wrong in over 30 years. But that, you know, of course, that's going to be plastered all over the place. So that's the issue. But, you know, I hope that they're ready to come out if they are allowed to come out. My main issue with it is giving them a new trial based on evidence that we already had. And what kind of precedent is that going to set?
And I didn't know the story so well at the beginning, so maybe he liked that. That's what I think. And then I started talking with Lyle for months, literally for months, like 4 or 5 months. And at some point, Lyle himself went to Eric and told him, hey, maybe you should talk to this guy.
Shaboogies, I did drop the panel link. I'm sorry if I didn't mention that, I think. Yeah, I see it. I did drop it. They won't get a new trial. Too many people have died. It's been too long. Bad Girl says they've done 1,000 more than Gypsy Rose ever had. And True Crime Addict said, in my opinion, I feel it's time to release them. They made a lot of changes. Okay. Yeah, I don't know all the changes that they've made. So I appreciate you guys sharing your thoughts and opinions. Hello, Norma. And thank you for saying happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. And then Anders said, I don't know how they lead things like that into evidence. Maybe an expert witness who is a psychologist. Yeah. Thank you for being here, Norma.
And he accepted. So at the end, I had both brothers, which was great, which was my goal from the beginning, no?
And that's what makes this a different perspective on this story, which You know what's happening on social media. I mean, everyone is talking about this. We are knee deep in it here at Court TV, having brought the trial to the world when it first happened years ago, the first trial. I want to do this. I want to play another clip from your documentary. And this is, again, another part of the significant part of the story and the case. Let's take a listen.
Hey, Shaboogies. Thank you for coming up here with me today. I appreciate it. I know you said you know a lot about this case, so you can educate me, and I appreciate you coming up.
Of course, love.
Thank you.
I would much rather lose a murder trial than talk about our past and what had happened.
So what's fascinating here, Alejandro, is understanding what they're saying now and what that dynamic is. I know for years they were separated, and then finally they were in the same prison. How would you describe what they're saying now and the dynamic between Lyle and Eric?
I found a very similar, approach, or they're saying the same things they said, in the 90s. It's very similar. They talk about their innocence. They talk about the abuse. I think they say almost the same things. Of course, they live through a very.
So now remember, at this time period, this is the 80s. People, abuse, like they would have been picked on, dealing with things like that. It was, even though they were victims, it wasn't looked upon kindly. Like people would have still, people were not accepting back then. People were mean and hateful about things like that, and especially other children. I like that we have grown as a society and become more accepting and understanding and sensitive to victims of things like this. We're a lot better now than we used to be in that aspect. Hey, Trixie, thank you for being here.
Very, difficult process of being in prison for 30 years. That's not easy, but they say the same things they said in the trial. Mostly, I found that, and the dynamics. I think they are really happy together in prison. They've been separated for almost 20 years, and I think in 2018 they got together again. So and they are very, they have a very a great link, a great.
I apologize if it's cutting out. It shows me that my internet connection is low, but I think that's StreamYard because it's not mine. Hey, Anders, thank you for becoming a member. You're so awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I will play the clip for you real quick, and then I saw some comments that we can look at real quick. Hold on just a minute. I don't understand why my internet's like showing low bars. Okay, so Shaboogie, thank you, Anders, again. Shaboogie said the prosecutor literally said during the trial that boys don't have the parts for that to be great. What? Are you serious? What kind of prosecutor is that? That is insane. SA didn't happen to boys. What was believed in the 80s. We know better now. Yes, thank you for putting that better, in a better context for me. And helping me get out the point I was trying to make better. And Bad Girl did too. It is insanity. Anders did get his wings. Thank you, Anders.
Bond between each other. Probably that bond has to do with what happened to them, about the crime, about the abuse, but also they are really good friends. So they look to be very happy being together. But mostly they say the same things, I think.
And how about emotionally? Like, where are they in all this? And did you get a sense that they are holding out hope that they are going to walk out of that prison someday?
They didn't want to talk a lot about that. Of course, I know the brothers, you know, I can't talk for them, but I had that feeling that they have some hope. But mostly they didn't want to talk about it, especially Eric. Eric didn't want to create himself, you know, false hopes, you know, false expectations. So I was.
Hey, Tiana, thank you so much for being here. Lovely. It's nice to see you.
I try to respect that, you know, not to insist to talk about that a lot. But I think that, and that's my impression, I think they have some hope, especially after what happened during 2020, where a lot of people was able to watch the trial. A lot of young people found the trial in the Court TV channel and began watching the trial and knowing a different truth. So I think they are completely aware of that.
And the other thing that's changed in society here was the Me Too movement. I mean, the way sexual assault is looked at now, much different than it was in the 90s. A lot of people are talking about that.
Oh, look, great minds think alike. Exactly, the Me Too movement. Again, I mean, you know, I was small in the 90s, but things like that, I mean, you didn't talk about it. Even if it happened in your family, it was something that was brushed under the rug. Nobody talked about it. People who did were picked on, and just, it was horrible. People were so unapologetic to victims. I'm glad we have come so far in our society, especially in being more accepting of victims and understanding. Hey, Itchy Winter's Horse Rescue. Just listening now as I do chores with the horses, but they do deserve to go free now. They've paid the price. Okay, all right. Eek, we're summoning you, love. And yeah, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Fist bump that thumbs up for me if you don't mind. Hi, Eva Marie. Eva Marie says, what could happen on the December 20th deadline for the court to respond to the habeas corpus? I'm not sure. I will look it up, though, and see what I can find.
They're on the inside. Are they cognizant of the way society has changed when it comes to those issues? Yeah,
even though they can't, you know, they don't have, you know, cable TV or they don't have cell phones, but they are really aware of what is happening outside, what is happening in society. Probably, you know, they talk with their wives, they talk with their relatives, so they are pretty aware of what is happening. And also something that happened, and for me was really, you know, very emotional, was the fact that Lyle began, you know, being some kind, he told me he was like a father confessor, because a lot of men over the years, I mean, began talking to him about being sexually assaulted when they were children, you know. So things changed inside the prison too, you know. When they got into prison for the first time in the 90s, probably nobody talked about those issues, and over the years, a lot of people began talking to them because they were pretty famous for that.
Now, you obviously spent a lot of time talking to both of them. So if someone comes up to you and says, Alejandro, how would you describe Lyle?
Well, Lyle, I think the general impression people has about Lyle is in some way right. Lyle is more business-like in some way. He's a leader. He wants to be in control. Not in a bad sense, but he wants to know what is happening, you know.
Yeah, I forgot. Eek might be at work. Trixie says Eric definitely deserves to be free. Lyle, after much contemplation, I'm on the fence about. Okay, yep. Thank you all for your information. I did find an article that was going over what you asked Eva Marie. It talks about it's titled LA's District Attorney Wants More Time to Respond to Menendez Brothers Habeas Corpus. I have emailed it to myself after we watched this clip. I will read it out loud for you.
If when he was talking to me, he wanted to know what were we talking about, you know. he's a kind of leader, and that's why probably people inside, inmates go to him to confess or to talk about these difficult issues. On the other side, Eric, it's in some way the opposite. He's more emotional. He's more spiritual. He's very artistic. He draws very well. He paints. So they have pretty different personalities, I would say.
I have time for one more question, Alejandro. Sure. And I want to leave it sort of open-ended to you. What else that you...
Hey, Shaboogies, I don't know if you had said anything and I started the clip back without hearing you. If I did, I apologize.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Shaboogie said resentencing is going to be their best bet. And this DA will likely turn down habeas. Okay. Yeah, we'll read this article after we watch this Court TV segment. Thank you.
You learned or you experienced here has sort of struck you about putting together this documentary?
Well, it was very hard. It was very emotional. I talked with them for months, for like 5 months. On weekly basis and sometimes daily. So sometimes when we talked about those difficult times, killing their parents, but also being sexually molested by their father, it was very emotional and very shocking for me. I was, emotionally drained sometimes, and I learned a lot. But especially what really surprised me had to do with their resilience, with how they were able to, to survive in prison for 30 years. Because probably the first 10 years they were there were very bad, but then they understood how to live in prison and how to try to, to make prison a better place. And both of them, and that's amazing, worked a lot to make prison a better place. And that's in some way enlightening in some way for me, how I never been, not even one day in prison. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I don't plan on doing it. Alejandro Hartman, director of the new Netflix documentary, The Menendez Brothers, thank you so much for sharing some time with us here. We appreciate it, and a lot of folks watching this are going to be watching that documentary. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm glad that he did go in and talk to them. Tiana says it was crazy how much they exposed in the trial, the details. Yeah, it was. They got very detailed. Eva says, I know the original deadline for habeas was November 26th and they needed more time and pushed out the deadline to December 20th. Yeah, I appreciate that information. I don't know what's going to happen. I do have a little bit of information that we'll talk about, but I did hear something that had to do with the election, actually. And I heard that because Trump got elected, the DA who was going to try to help them basically was no longer the DA. And so that was like going to hurt them. But what happened
was Gascon was the one pioneering this resentence. Well, he didn't pioneer it. He was, the one that was more open to resentencing or looking at habeas. He also wrote a letter of recommendation for clemency to Governor Newsom. Yes. Newsom actually turned clemency down. He gave it to the DA to decide. Unfortunately, Gascon was forced out by election. A new DA was elected, and that DA sounds less open to helping.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate that. So yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, so that's the information that I had heard so far about it. And thank you for that again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Coming up next, will the Menendez brothers get out?
We have been given evidence. We have been given a photocopy of a letter that allegedly was sent by one of the brothers to another family member talking about him being the victim of molestation.
How could live?
Okay, so But they talked about those type of things happening in the trial, right? Like, that's not new information, correct? That's my question. You can go. I'm just
I was gonna say, the first trial, they were allowed to show all of the evidence to prove that they had been sexually molested by their father, and they had a bunch of witnesses from their family come on the stand, and that's why their first trial ended in a hung jury. And women jurors have come out now and said it was women versus men. All the women said not guilty, all the men said guilty. So that's why the first one was a hung jury. And then when it came to the second trial started immediately after OJ got found not guilty. And he was also found not guilty in the same court. So LA was like, we need to fucking win. And the judge didn't allow half of the testimony or the evidence of sexual abuse. Oh. And that ended in a guilty sentencing.
Okay. I appreciate that updated information. So, taking that into account, if the jury didn't have, just like, how I feel about Richard Allen, you can't expect a jury to make an informed decision unless they have all the evidence. So if they didn't have all the evidence, then yeah, they should get another chance, because that evidence is pertinent to why they did what they did, supposedly. So people need to be given that evidence, and they need to be, that needs to be gone over again, and somebody needs to look at it and make a decision based on all of the evidence. I'm very big about all of the evidence. So yeah, for sure.
And Ava, the reason why the letter is technically new evidence is because they knew the letter existed, and the cousin Andy was able to testify in the first trial and talk about that letter. So they were very aware of the letter, but they never found the copy of it until recently. So that's kind of why it's new evidence, because they finally have corroboration to the claim.
Okay. Eva had said they keep calling the letter new evidence, but Barbara Walter talks about it in a video in 1996. Plus, I saw somewhere where they had the letter from the original trial but left it out, which is what Shaboogies was responding to, and she said the letter is exculpatory evidence. Anders, yes, that was talking about the movie Rust with Alec Baldwin and how that person got shot. If I'm not mistaken, that's like the second person that's got shot around Alec Baldwin, which is weird. By accident, I might add.
Today, what I want to make very clear, we have not conceded one way or the other. We're not saying that there was anything wrong with the original trial. We have been given evidence. We have been given a photocopy of a letter that allegedly was sent by one of the brothers to another family member, talking about him being the victim of molestation. We've also got evidence that was provided by the defense, by his lawyers, that one of the members of the Menudo band alleged that he was molested by the father. None of this information.
So that was what I had heard. So that's what I was referencing earlier. Real quick, Shaboogie said he's an angry man, that Alec. Yeah, Alec does seem pretty angry, Alec Baldwin. Back to this case. This is what I had heard. So this is a member from the band Menudo, which surprisingly I have heard of. I think I've heard some of their songs, as a matter of fact. Stating that he was molested by the father, and the father was their music producer. So that was the new evidence that I had heard about. And they said molested. I guess technically it doesn't matter, but like, were they actually sexually assaulted, or was it just molestation? Not just, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I could see somebody, like, if I put myself in their shoes, which is what I try to do. Yeah. If somebody is like, either way though, really, if I wanted it to stop and I felt like I had no other out, then yeah, I might do it. But I have to also say that there's people out there who have unfortunately experienced things like that and don't do what they did. Shaboogie says he was raped by Jose on 3 different occasions. Oh, wow. Tiana says Menudo, I think he's their cousin too. Right, I think so. Oh, it was? Okay. Thank you, Shaboogies. And then Anders said, didn't the Menendez brothers do something with a computer hard drive? I'm not sure. Shaboogies might know. And then Eva said the O.J. Simpson trial of the 3 officers involved in the Rodney King trial affected. Oh, wow. Okay. So y'all got all the deets on this.
Information has been confirmed. We are not at this point ready to say that we either believe or do not believe that information.
That's the LA DA, George Gascon, saying, we haven't made up our mind about the Menendez brothers, but there's this new evidence. That's all we're saying at this time. But you're holding a press conference, like a very public press conference, that you're now reviewing the Menendez brothers case. To me, that's huge. And knowing the history of this particular district attorney, I think the Menendez brothers have I think they may have a DA that's very willing to listen to their side of the story, which brings me to my next question, which really is a big question, especially.
Now, if I have heard right and understand, I think that would have been the old district attorney, not the new one. Shaboogies said, Lyle asked someone, a computer guy, to look for and destroy any new will on his father's computer. He was afraid their father gave it all to someone else. Okay. So that would have been interesting for the prosecution. It might be more like why that lady from the prosecution's like, it's all about money, but at the same time, I mean, if he's dealing with this abuse for all the years, and if he finally said no and his father retaliated by doing something like that, I could understand why he'd be concerned about it, if I'm being honest. Oh goodness, Eva. Rosella reported that he was raped and there was blood. That is horrible. And Shaboogie said they did want the money, so yes, the money is a factor, but not the trauma that drove them to do it, yeah. Yep.
Especially for Eric and Lyle. Will the Menendez brothers get out? I need some help with this one. Need to go out to the left coast. Joining me, Deputy Public Defender, LA County, Philip Dubé, and criminal defense attorney, former LA County prosecutor, host of Courtroom Confidential podcast, Josh Ritter. Okay, gentlemen, Philip Dubé. He's got a reputation, this DA. It's a very public press conference. To me, the writing's on the wall. These guys are getting out.
If I were to prognosticate, I would say yes, they are getting out. One of the best things that both of these men could hope for is that their opponent is not contesting the petition. It's so much easier for a judge not to so much surrender the gavel, but to rule in the petitioner's favor when the issues are uncontested. Typically, Vinny, when we go into court on a habeas matter, the issues are contested. What I think the prosecution should do to make their position even more forceful for the court is to bring their own request to resentence them under California law based on the fact that it would be in the interest of justice and that the original sentence was excessive. And if they can show abuse in their background and that they had an absolutely impeccable prison record, that is grounds to grant the relief. And the court can just resentence them, actually vacate the conviction, find a lesser included or even a lesser related charge, and give them time served and be done with it.
Let me ask you, Josh.
So if he's bringing up the fact that they have, that they're taking into account the prison record and that it was impeccable, that makes me believe that they did have an impeccable prison record. And while they might have gotten in trouble for bringing a cell phone in, I'm assuming it did not happen. They're not the type to get in trouble a lot in prison, because otherwise they wouldn't be bringing it up as in it's going to benefit them and help them get out. Hey, Abellis, thank you for being here, lovely.
What are your thoughts? I think it's going to happen. I'm not saying I necessarily agree that it should happen, but I think it's going to happen. Are you thinking the same thing here, or you have a different take here?
Well, the answer is certainly not 100% no. The DA in his press conference there made that clear. I mean, he was very specific about not being specific about what their feelings were about the case so far. I will say it's interesting that he's making this press conference because they've had this habeas since last year. So they've had a considerable amount of time already to take a look at this evidence if they felt that it was persuasive. But the evidence, if they do feel it's persuasive and they do feel that it was corroborative of the boys' positions that they were being molested at the hands of their father, then yeah, I mean, this DA holds a lot of power and the ability to, as Philip was pointing out, possibly resentence them to manslaughter, which was what they were arguing for in the first trial, in the first case. And if that happens, then they get out. They've got time served. Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, I could get down with, I mean, if they go for manslaughter and they've already served their time for that and they get out on those, I mean, they did do their time. So I could agree with that. True Crime Addict is coming through with our new word for the day, and it's prognosticate. That's our word for the day. And Shabella says that's a good point too. By the way, the habeas has been in the works for over a year and working with the last DA for the same amount of time. Everyone said it was politically motivated, but it started prior. Yep. Prognosticate. I wanted to make sure I got that right. Prognosticate. Let's try to use that word in our vocabulary sometime between today and tomorrow.
And let me ask you just a quick follow-up, Josh, because you said they've had this for quite some time. But that preceded the Netflix series and the social media explosion that's happening now. Let me ask you a follow-up, and I'll have both of you have a chance for this. So about 15 seconds, 20 seconds or so. Should that impact this, the social media explosion and Netflix making this all of a sudden a cause?
I don't know if it should affect it. I mean, I would hope that the district attorney would be making their decisions based upon the evidence and the law. But I will say that culturally, we have changed a lot since 30 years ago. And our view of abuse, and especially our view of abuse, sexual abuse against men. And so maybe if we're...
I could not agree more with that statement. And I'm glad that he said that, because that's what I was referencing earlier. Our view on things like that has changed dramatically over the past 30 years. And Hello Kitty said, and Asha Boogie said, the new DA, Hochman, isn't showing much interest in letting them out. And that's devastating, considering that the jury wasn't given all the evidence. That's what bothers me in all of these cases. You have to give them all the evidence or they can't make an informed decision, in my opinion.
We're deciding that we're going to take a different look at this than we might have 30 years ago. That might be the lens in which they're looking at it now.
Philip Dubé, 10 seconds.
Absolutely, because the film highlighted much of the injustice during the retrial. The court shifted gears, went in reverse, and absolutely reversed itself on the imperfect self-defense and shut it down when there was no change in the evidence. People don't like that.
All right, we've got a lot more to get to. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.
So I'm going to mute it while he plays his music. I mean, I think that, again, it's very important that it's being brought up again at a time when we look so much more kindly and understanding on abuse victims, especially men. I mean, I can't stress enough how hard it was for men that were victims back in the day. I mean, it was just horrible. People were mean about it. I wonder, how is Sweden today, Anders? Is it cold there too? Abellis, is it cold where you're at? Bad Girl says trials aren't fair anymore. God forbid you be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yes, I could not agree more. And always, if you find yourself being interrogated, don't say anything. I don't care if you were involved or not. Get a lawyer immediately, please, for the love of God. Look at the West Memphis 3.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the Menendez brothers. They did kill their parents, you know. They were convicted of double murder, and they were sentenced to life without parole. But now, you know, I know, there's a growing movement to set the brothers free. Here's their story.
The Menendez brothers trial was one of the most divisive in court TV history. The story of two rich young men, Eric and Lyle Menendez, growing up in the lavish suburbs of New Jersey and Beverly Hills. Their dad was a record executive. They seemed to have life on a silver platter, but behind closed doors, things were bad. The brothers took a shotgun and killed their mother and father. Then they covered it up and lied about where they were. They spent tens of thousands of dollars in the months that followed until they were arrested and charged with murder. Then came the trial where they testified about years of physical and sexual abuse by their father. Everyone had an opinion. The public was split, and so were the juries. Then, at a second trial, they were convicted and sentenced to life. Now, it's once again on the national agenda. And again, everyone has an opinion about whether or not justice was served.
The trial of Eric and Lyle Menendez was unusual in so many ways. And it really begins with, you know, how people saw the evidence. It broke on gender lines. People were watching the same thing. Men saw one thing and women were seeing something else as we watched and we listened. There were some other unusual moments, which is the therapist who was treating the boys, testifying in their trial. Take a look.
And we headed back to the office, and right before we entered the front door of the office building in which I had my office, he leaned back against, as I recall, a parking meter that was in front of the office door and said, "We did it." And I don't know if he said we killed our parents, but I asked him, you mean you killed your parents? He said yes. And from that point, we went back up into the office.
Okay. You know, part of me is like HIPAA privacy, and aren't they supposed to, everything between them and the therapist is supposed to be private unless it's talking about hurting themselves or hurting somebody else. Then it becomes you have to say something as a therapist. I do remember the one crazy lady that was going on the YouTube streets and all these podcasts in the Richard Allen case testifying. So is it weird that he did that?
This brings me to my next question in this investigation. It's about what you just saw. I mean, this is their therapist. Why was a therapist allowed to testify about a confession? Is there some sort of...
So is that the difference? It's a confession, but again, the lady, I can't remember her name, but the one that was fangirling in the Richard Allen case testified to a confession.
Privilege there? Like you're going to your psychologist, your psychiatrist, your therapist, you're telling him your most innermost thoughts. Why is he on the stand testifying about a confession? Joining me, Deputy Public Defender, LA County, Philip Dubé, and criminal defense attorney, former LA County prosecutor, host of Courtroom Confidential podcast, Josh Ritter. Philip Dubé, what's going on? Why? Why is a therapist allowed to testify about a confession to a murder here?
Tiana says, I know, right? He felt threatened because Lyle got mad about Eric spilling the beans. Oh, wow. See, but yeah, that's weird to me because there's been, therapists that testify in other cases. From what I'm seeing, y'all all say it's relatively cold in your areas. Hello Kitty, I'm jealous because I want the snow as well. It's chilly here, but I'm still in short sleeves. It's kind of hot actually, but it's not like, it's cold but hot. There's a nice breeze, I should say.
In most circumstances, conversations with your therapist are confidential and they are inadmissible in judicial proceedings under what we call the psychotherapist patient privilege. However, like everything else in the law, Vinny, and I'm sure Joshua will agree, there are exceptions. And one of the exceptions is what's called the dangerous patient exception, meaning if a psychotherapist has reasonable cause to believe that he or she and or others are put in danger by their own patient, they can break privilege. And when the lover overheard what was going on and he told the lover what was going on and shared what happened with his wife, Laurel, the doctor, the lover went to the police and they got a search warrant. And the doctor, bless his heart, actually asserted the privilege at trial and felt he had to remain loyal to them. But the court basically overruled it and found that under the dangerous patient exception to the psychotherapist patient privilege rule, the statements were coming in. Now, not in their totality. Some of them were excluded. And when those statements came in, they were devastating to the defense. Absolutely devastating.
No, of course. Let's take a listen, because there's also recordings of some of the conversations. Let's take a listen.
And I still think Mom was a suicide because, I feel that.
Okay, this is going to be hard to hear. I'm going to pause it and try to read it to you. Oh, Tatiana, I'm in North Carolina. Mandatory reporting is what Sarah said. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I know if you say you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else, they have to report. But they're finding it weird. And like I said, I mean, I don't mean to keep bringing Richard Allen up. It's just the case that's on the top of my mind. I think about that woman testifying in his defense that he actually confessed. And I don't know. Yeah, trigger warning. It is scrolling across the bottom of my screen. Thank you, Abellis. I appreciate that.
I wanted to say real quick, too, what's fucked up, what's messed up about this situation is that the therapist, the psychologist or whatever, he's the one who suggested Lyle come in and speak with him, that they both speak to him or whatever. And then because he thought Lyle was this angry person, he invites that lady in and doesn't even think twice about it. And of course she has no privilege, so she's going to run in tow.
Oh, that makes it different. So
yeah, he brought Eric and Lyle in together, and it was him and his girlfriend as like the safety witness. And they broke up shortly thereafter, and to get revenge, that's why she spilled the beans about their confession.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a different perspective. Thank you for telling me that. That kind of helps me understand a little bit better. That's messed up. Eva said they were probably so happy they were no longer going to be abused that they celebrated with a spending spree and felt they deserved the estate. Yeah. I can understand that. And I mean, again, put yourself in the mind of a young adult / teenager. I mean, I could definitely see them doing that. Okay. Yep. I was just trying to read some of your comments real quick. Sarah said it's a red rum that's unsolved. Any medical professional or teacher, etc., has to report abuse, self-harm, or etc. Why aren't priests on the stand? That's a good question. If we're going to talk about confessions, as far as like, confessing to a Catholic priest. Yep. And then Tiana said she was his mistress, right? From what I understand, yes. Shibagi says yes. Okay, so what it says so far, Lyle Menendez said, and I still think Mom's was a unaliving because I feel that in her letters. To Eric and I, she gave me the permission.
She gave me the permission.
The burden seemed to continually be handed to me. Eric handed me it to talk to Ma. Dad handled it a lot. Dad handed a lot of things to me to sort of
she gave me permission to please carry out her
She had given me permission to please carry out her unaliving. Let me know if y'all can read it. I mean, can hear it, and I won't continue reading it. And it was obvious that she had decided in her own mind that she wants to no longer be here.
And she doesn't want to talk about it.
She can't do it, and she doesn't want to talk about it. And there's nothing I can do to help her. There's nothing anyone else can do, and she very much doesn't want.
She very much doesn't want
anyone else to know. That what Eric and I did took courage beyond belief, beyond strength.
Courage beyond belief, beyond strength.
There was no way I was going to make a decision to unalive my mother without Eric's consent. I didn't even want to influence him. In that issue, I just let him sleep on it the next couple of days.
I'm in a very good position.
Because I'm in a very good position to influence Eric on a lot of things because he knows that I care on a whole number of issues.
Yes, I care on a whole number of issues. And I can talk eloquently on whatever. But when it came to that issue,
and I can talk eloquently or whatever, but when it came to that issue, I wanted nothing to do with it. It had to be his own personal issue. If he felt the same way I did about unaliving Mom.
I feel angry towards my relatives. Why didn't
And, I feel angry towards my relatives. Why didn't you do something?
you do something? If you knew what was going on and I didn't, then
When you knew what was going on and I didn't, and when
I did something about it.
I found out, I did something about it. I did what I thought my mother would want me to do, which is, can you unalive me?
What I thought my mother would want me to do was just, can you tell me that I can't, and I just couldn't.
And I can't, and I just couldn't unalive my mom.
Just kill my mom, that would be ridiculous. I wanted to get rid of
That would be ridiculous. I wanted to get rid of the source.
the source, but I couldn't live with that. Nobody.
I couldn't live with that. Nobody could.
Okay. Josh Ritter, how unusual is it? Like what happened during this trial where you've got the therapist testifying, where you're hearing like recordings of the sessions?
Oh, it's nearly unheard of. I mean, you just don't see this happen. As Philip pointed out really well, this is a privilege that's incredibly important. We want patients to be able to freely share information with their therapists. And this was litigated over a couple of years. This became a crucial part of this entire case, whether or not those tapes and the confessions that they made to their doctor would actually come in. So this wasn't an easy decision by the courts. It was heavily litigated by both sides, and it changed the entire dynamic of the case.
I was trying to highlight Bad Girl said, I brought up about the priest because you confess to them. Do they turn you in with a question mark? Right. That's why I was saying, like, in reference to a Catholic priest, you have confessions, and I've never seen a Catholic priest on the stand either. Trixie said, my being on the fence is Lyle didn't even live there. Lyle was not being abused since he was little. I think he was the one to put it in Eric's head. So that's a good point and very possible. The second part says this was carefully planned. Eric couldn't do that.
Let me chime in real quick. Trixie said Lyle hadn't been abused sexually his whole life. He only was sexually abused for like 3 years, I believe, like she was saying. He did continue to be physically, emotionally, and verbally abused his entire life, and he was away at college. And remember, the brothers didn't know that the other one was going through this yet. They never spoke to each other about it, ever. And then Eric finally tells him this confession, and it blows him up because he's remembering all the times he was sexually abused, and he comes to find out that instead of stopping it with his brother when he was 8, like it stopped for Lyle, his little brother is still being abused all these years as a 17-year-old boy. It's crazy. I mean, that would set me off.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out and letting us know about that too. Yeah, that would set me off. Yeah, for sure, because you're going to try to protect him. And he thought it would have stopped and it didn't. Yeah, I would, that would have set me off too. Bad Girl said, yep, and the mother ripped it off his head and it was professionally glued on. Talking about a toupee that the mother ripped off of somebody's head, is what that's in reference to. I think priests are mandatory reporters, whether they do, not sure. Yeah, I've never seen a priest testify about a confession either. So I don't know.
I mean, there's an argument to be made that had it not been for those confessions, the prosecution case would not be nearly as strong as it was, and it may have
thank you, Shiboogies, for the information.
Changed the way that the boys handled their own defense.
Yeah, you would. The defense would be very different. It might be, hey, you just don't have any evidence that we actually committed the murders, which they did. I mean, we know they did it. But did you have the evidence to do it? Philip Dubé, looking back on it now, right? We're looking back 30 years. Is that part of the equation in the fairness of this? The fact that a therapist provides the information that prosecutors needed, the direct evidence, the confessions, in order to convict the brothers of this double murder?
No, to be quite honest with you. I found the rationale from the state Supreme Court to be very disingenuous, but I think what really did them in is the fact that the trial court shut down their defense on retrial.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that, Philip. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Yeah. Let me play another piece of the recordings really quickly, because this is so unusual, so different, and one of the reasons why I think people are looking back at the case.
She was very cold. My mother was always very good in stressful situations. Very calm. This was obviously something.
I missed the first part of that. He said my mother was very good at something, very calm. This was obviously something that was an extreme stress for her. Abellis, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Abella said, happy early Thanksgiving, American cousins. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you. That was so sweet of you, Abellis. You're so sweet. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day tomorrow as well. So yeah, I just read that part. This was obviously something that was an extreme stress for her.
Something that was an extreme stress for her. If Eric would have walked in the room when she was crying,
if Eric would have walked in the room when she was crying, or when I did, frequently, she was she would stop crying. I don't want to talk about it. It's my own problem. Blah, 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 blah.
She wouldn't let you in, though. Yeah.
She wouldn't let you in, though. And it said the therapist, and Lyle is saying no, very matter of fact also about stressful things, which would mean...
Very matter of fact also about stressful things, which would mean if I started saying, which I would do would be to try to get her emotional.
Which would mean if I started saying, which I would do to try to get her emotional and get her emotion.
Get her emotions out. Hey, I'm with you. I think you should.
Hey, I'm with you. I think you should leave Dad. He's crazy.
Leave Dad. He's crazy. He's doing this to you. It's obvious. He's doing this to me.
He's doing this and this to you. It's obvious. He's doing this to me. Her
reaction is, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me.
Her reaction is, no, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I think you're overreacting.
I think you're overreacting. Wow. Here's all the recent things about he bought this car.
I think you're overreacting, Lyle. Here's all the reasons, things that he bought you this car.
They wanted you to do this. He wanted to do that.
He wanted you to do this. He wanted you to do that. He's a loving father.
He's a loving father. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you stop talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think you should stop talking about it. And I'm going to pause right there. That's how things like that were looked upon at that time period. A lot of times in a lot of households, it would be, I don't know what you're talking about. I think you should stop talking about it. Oh, goodness. I'm sorry. I missed you, Shaboogies. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Shaboogie said, Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanks for being my favorite channel. Aw. Thank you for hanging out here. Y'all are so nice. Thank you, guys. Hey, baby girl, 5478. Hi from, I have no idea, Florida. It's nice to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And everybody in the comment section is saying Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. So if you guys are watching this on Thanksgiving or on the replay, just know that everybody over here is telling you all Happy Thanksgiving. Early Thanksgiving. And he asked the therapist asked how angering was that, and Lyle said, and what?
How angering was that?
How angering was that? To me, and the doctor said, mm-hmm.
Oh, that's extremely angering to me because she was putting me in the position.
Oh, it was extremely angering to me because she was putting me in a position to defend the things that my father was doing to me, and that wasn't even.
She was defending the things that my father was doing to me, and that wasn't supposed to be the issue.
And that wasn't even supposed to be the issue. It was the things that I had to get past first.
The things that I had to get past first, the things he was doing to me, to get to the things.
The things he was doing to me to get to the things he was doing to her.
He was doing to her,
and there was just no way.
So, Josh,
I'm going to pause real quick just because I wanted to highlight your comments real quick. So, Hello Kitty says Happy Early Thanksgiving. True Crime said Happy Early Thanksgiving. Bad Girl said same to yous and yours. Shaboogie said Happy Early Turkey Day. So I wanted to let y'all know there's lots of people saying Happy Early Thanksgiving. All right, we'll get back to the video. Abellis, no, I'm going to try to come on for a few minutes tomorrow just to do like some crazy news stories. Like there was one I saw on my Discord where like the daughter killed the father because Trump got elected and they were fighting about it, which is just ridiculous. So we're going to talk about some things like that, a little bit more lighthearted. Oh, Tatiana, thank you. Or Tiana, excuse me. Thank you. That's such a sweet thing to say. Anders is afraid of turkeys because they're very aggressive.
Josh, I understand the concept of a patient is with a therapist and is planning a horrific murder, and the therapist takes action to prevent something from happening. Here, it's already happened. This is almost like, you go to your criminal defense attorney and tell him what happened, and all of a sudden the criminal defense attorney is testifying against you.
And I tell you what, your criminal defense attorney would take whatever you said to them to the grave. I mean, there's no way your criminal defense attorney would be turning on a tape recorder to hear you talk about what crimes you may have taken part in. So it's, we're really in uncharted territory here. The fact that one, you had the therapist testifying, two, that he actually recorded it. But again, there was this, the courts took a look at this and they felt that there were threats made to the therapist by Lyle that was an exception, as was pointed out, we talked about earlier, that if there's a danger of, you're right, not past danger, but
the future danger,
potential danger, then there can be an exception. And they allowed all of this in. It's incredibly controversial even to this day.
All right, Philip Dubé, get ready, because still to come, why wasn't the evidence of sexual abuse allowed in the second trial?
He became more serious and indicated to me that he was afraid of not sleeping downstairs.
Why?
Because he and his dad had been touching each other, and he indicated that it was in his genital area.
So, I meant to mute it while they did this music. If I had to guess as to why that evidence wasn't allowed at the second trial, I would say, and my allegedly speculating guess would be that they knew that that was the reason the first jury got hung up. And so they didn't want to have they didn't let it be admitted in the second trial because they wanted a conviction, would be my guess as to that. Yeah, geese and turkeys, like wild ones, are super aggressive and really scary. If we're being honest, they are. I agree.
Between the ages of 6 and 8, did your father have sexual contact with you?
Yes.
And how did it start?
Baby girl said it's pronounced Palatka. Also, you can just say baby girl. Okay. And she says, happy early Thanksgiving to everybody. Thank you, baby girl. What's wrong, Zaya?
Just started with, after sports practices, he would massage me. And we would have these talks, and he would show me, and he would fondle me, and he would ask me to do the same with him, and I would touch him. We would undress.
My dad came in and told me to take off my clothes and to kneel on the bed. And he closed the blinds and he put the slide underneath the door like he always did. And he told me to bend over the footboard.
The Menendez brothers trial, the first one, the one that Court TV brought.
I apologize for, I do have the trigger warning scrolling across the bottom of my screen, but I do apologize. I know that's hard to hear. My goodness. How traumatic. Zayo, I'm sorry you cut your thumb, love.
To America. I mean, that's what it was about. That's what the conversation was about throughout this case. It was about the sex abuse of Eric and Lyle, the allegations that were making. Do you believe them? Do you not believe them? And if you believe them, what does it mean? But it wasn't just their testimony. They also had testimony from their cousin. Take a listen.
Lyle, Eric, and I had been downstairs playing ping pong. And the two boys were called upstairs to get ready for bed.
Who called them upstairs?
Jose.
And what happened next?
I stayed and went into my bedroom, which was downstairs.
Is that in the basement?
Yes.
Okay.
And a while later, Lyle came down. I believed he was there to tell me goodnight. And he came downstairs and he started asking if he could spend the night in the other bed. We had two twin beds and Kathy had left by then.
So there was an empty bed?
Right.
Okay, so he's asking if he can spend the night in the bed. And what do you do?
I did not. I pretty much ignored him and brushed him off at first. I thought he was just goofing around.
He's an 8-year-old kid and you didn't take it seriously?
Right.
Okay. And what happened after that?
He became more serious and indicated to me that he was afraid of not sleeping downstairs.
Why?
Because he and his dad had been touching each other, and he indicated that it was in his genital area.
Did he seem like he was kidding around, or did he seem serious?
No, he was serious.
And what did you do?
And she would know. I mean, look at her face and how she's testifying as to, no, he was serious. You know, family members, like especially siblings, cousins, closely related children, they talk to each other about everything. Shabuki says this testimony makes me sick. Like, yeah.
I went and got Kitty and brought her downstairs and told her what was going on.
You took it seriously enough to go get Kitty then?
Yes.
Overall.
Yes, I did.
And did you tell Kitty what Lyle had told you?
Yes, I told her what he had indicated to me, what he was telling me, what he was showing me.
How did she look? Did she look shocked, or did she show any emotion?
She showed that she did not believe me.
This was the first trial. This was what that trial was about. But then came the second trial. And suddenly things were much different. All of this evidence wasn't there. Neither were the cameras and microphones, folks, so you didn't get to see it. That brings me to my next question, which is, why wasn't the evidence of the sexual abuse allowed in the second trial? It's like it's the same case, it's the same defendants, it's the same accusations, but the evidence is different? Why? Still with me, Philip Dubé and Josh Ritter. Philip, I know you're chomping at the bit.
In the first trial, they had 2 juries because they were afraid of the impact of cross-admissible evidence against both brothers. So they wanted separate juries to decide each boy's fate at the time.
They were worried about the cross inadmissible evidence of the brothers. I really do think it's because the first jury was hung up and they knew it had to do with the sexual assault, so they kept it out, even though it's pertinent information to the trial. And like Boogie said, at that time period after the O.J. Simpson trial happened and everybody's mind was blown by the outcome of that, L.A. wanted to win. H.E. Withers, Horse Rescue, I heard what you said, or I saw what you said about the turkeys, and I think that's super sweet. I wish I could train the ones here to come to me. There's a pack that is here that runs around, but I can't ever get close enough to them to do anything. But they're beautiful. They run around the way up there by where my garden is. Yep.
But when they hung, right around that time, the O.J. Simpson verdict came back, and of course it was a not guilty, and it was sort of a black eye on the DA's office at the time, and I think they were shocked that in a major media case they lost.
Yep.
At the time, Judge Stanley Weisberg, who presided over the Menendez trial, he had only been on the bench maybe a couple of years. He had been appointed right out of the DA's office. He was a former prosecutor. So I think he was tightening the screws, if you will, and shut it down. The initial defense, all the rulings were not binding on the retrial, and the court absolutely had jurisdiction to reverse course and only allow in what it found to be legally relevant. And the court made a finding that all the sex abuse and molestation evidence was legally irrelevant during the retrial. What? And the only way the court would reconsider allowing it in is if Lyle took the stand. So in other words, conditioned admissibility of their defense. And basically, they weren't saying they were not guilty, Vinny. They weren't saying set me free. What they were saying, we acted in unreasonable self-defense and we were guilty of voluntary manslaughter by firearm, which back then would top out at 11 years per victim with an additional 2 years for the firearm. So they would have been out conceivably in 26 years or 85% of that. But the judge shut it down. And the problem was between the time of the first trial and the retrial, Lyle allegedly made some inculpatory statements to the press and to other people while in jail. And those statements were coming in that the court felt would belie that defense. So rather than trifle, if you will, the judge conditioned admissibility on Lyle taking the stand.
So in order to have all your evidence heard by the jury, they're basically blackmailing the other brother to take the stand, which is ridiculous. That is insane. That is so corrupt. Abellis, yes, Ike is doing good. She's working now, and so she's working during the time that the lives are, but she's doing good from what I've been told and from what she said. She's in the Discord. I know you were in there at one point. So if you want to talk to her, you can get in there sometimes in the evening. She'll be in there.
Let me ask you, Josh Ritter, former prosecutor, now criminal defense attorney, was that a fair trial, the second trial? If the evidence is different, what the defense is able to put out there, and the issue that became the focal point and sort of the dividing point on the way people saw the case, including the first 2 juries?
That's a difficult question. I will say this. I think there was significant evidence of abuse. I think that if you watch the first trial, there were many people who testified to corroborate the boys' allegations of abuse. Now, as Philip pointed out, though, what that really was asking for is not an acquittal. What they were asking for was an instruction on perfect self-defense, meaning were they in an honest fear for their lives, but it was unreasonable. meaning that they wouldn't go free. They would just go from first-degree murder, making them eligible for the death penalty, by the way, down to a manslaughter, making it possible for them to ever see the outside of a prison again. If that was the argument they had always made, even in the first trial. In the second trial, because of the judge's decisions, that option was never even presented to the jury. They only had the option between first-degree murder or walk them out the door as free men. And I think presented with the evidence that they had at the second trial, the jury really felt like they had no choice.
Yeah, with just all or nothing, Philip Dubé, it's much different, because I've spoken with one of the jurors, and they said
that is different. I don't understand why they couldn't have gone for manslaughter, because I think that would have been a more appropriate charge, for sure. Abellis, the brothers were separate for a long time, but I think they've recently been reunited. And then Shabugi said manufactured perfectly, and the public hated them, so it was easy to get away with it. Wow, that's interesting. I'm still going to cover that news article. I thought I had forgot, Eva.
they weren't divided on not guilty. They were divided between the first degree and the manslaughter. So you take the manslaughter out, you're not going to set these kids free.
No, of course not. And I think the judge was absolutely wrong. The judge should have let it in, always there on the side and allow in their defense. And obviously, in hindsight, I'm sure counsel wonders whether or not they should have put Lyle on the stand. We'll never know the answer to that. And frankly, even if he would have testified, we don't know if the verdict would have been any different. However, this may be factored in at the habeas hearing. All of this. You know, had this have come in the first time, and with all the new evidence, would it be now in the interest of justice, based on this new evidence that wasn't available back then, to give them a new trial or to set them
Absolutely.
free? And
yep.
You know we're out of time. That's the only time I would ever interrupt Philip Dubé. Philip Dubé, Josh Ritter, thank you both so much. You know, this story, more than most, demonstrates the absolute need for cameras inside the courtroom. The Menendez brothers' first trial had cameras. The public saw the trial, and the public understood why the juries were deadlocked. But no one saw the second trial, except the people who walked into the courtroom. And now many are questioning whether justice was served. The only way to gain trust is to be transparent. And in that respect, the judge failed the public. I'm Vinny Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation.
Okay, we'll watch another video clip. I'm going to switch to this article real quick for Eva. Hold on just a minute so I can make sure that y'all can see it first. Okay, so this article is from Los Angeles Magazine, and it's titled, LA District Attorney Wants More Time to Respond to Menendez Brothers Habeas Corpus. A Superior Court judge has set Tuesday as a deadline for outgoing District Attorney George Gascon's office to respond to the questions about whether evidence regarding the abuse the brothers suffered was kept from a jury who convicted them in 1996. And this was released evidently 20 hours ago. There they are as kids. Los Angeles County prosecutors have asked for a time extension to file a response to Lyle and Eric Menendez's petition for a writ of habeas corpus, a separate legal issue not connected to their ongoing request for resentencing. According to the file entered into the record Tuesday, Deputy District Attorney Amy Wilton, the Assistant Deputy Head of the Habeas Corpus Litigation Team, has asked the court to delay the deadline for the DA's response to the petition until December 20th, 2024. That dates coming after incoming District Attorney Nathan Hochman takes office on December 2nd. Wilson
They're setting them up for failure. Fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yep. That's what it seems like, because why would they push it out until after the second when this other attorney comes into office? And they could say, well, because we're dealing with switching attorneys or whatever, but you've had plenty of time to review this, in my opinion. So it should have already been talked about.
And I'm just praying to God that the judge resentenced them to a lower crime, and then we don't have to worry about the DA.
Yeah. Yep. It continues. Wilton explained to the court team that her team is, quote, is in the final stages of the briefing process and request a short continuance to properly complete necessary pre-filing edits to the informal response. The deadline for the DA's response to the writ filed May 3rd, 2023, has been set by Superior Court Judge William Ryan for Tuesday, November 26th. At the time, prosecutors were asked to explain whether explosive evidence of sexual abuse that was kept from a jury deciding the fate of two of California's most notorious unalivers, Eric and Lyle Menendez, at the brothers' 1996 retrial, which ended in their conviction. In the writ filed by the attorneys Mark Georges and Cliff Gardner, Wilton wrote, the Menendez brothers' lawyers, quote, alleged petitioner Eric Menendez wrote to his cousin Andy Cano in 1988 regarding sexual abuse and a declaration purportedly from a witness alleging that he was sexually abused by petitioner's father, Jose Menendez. Gergos is the co-owner of English Vision Media, the parent company of Los Angeles. The witness referenced in Wilton's filing has been identified as Roy Rosello Diaz, a former member of the iconic boy band Menudo that Jose. The witness referenced in Wilton's filing has been identified as Roy Diaz, a former member of the iconic boy band Menudo that Jose went in the back door. Rosello told the producers of the Peacock documentary Menendez and Menudo, Boys Betrayed, that he shared a limousine with Menendez after a concert in New York City when he was 14 that took them to a mansion in New Jersey where he was, quote, given wine and, quote, then lost consciousness and woke up back in his hotel. He was bleeding from his back area. He was in unbearable pain for a week. That new evidence to the writ for habeas corpus proves the brothers acted in imperfect self-defense when they shot their parents dead on August 20th, 1989 in the family's Beverly Hills mansion. On Monday, the Menendez brothers were in court for the first time in decades to watch as their elderly aunts made impassioned pleas at the state's conference for resentencing push in the case, once supported by Gascon, who was announced in October that he believes the boys were abused and should be paroled. That outgoing DA recommended to the new court a sentence of 50 years to life, which could make them immediately eligible for parole because they were less than 26 years old when they unalived their parents. On Monday, however, Superior Court Judge Michael Jessic said he could not move forward with the hearing scheduled for December 11th due to the amount of evidence he needed to go through. He postponed the hearing to January 30th. The judge in that separate proceeding pushed the sentencing hearing to January 20th, 2025. Lyle, now 56, and Eric, 53, are currently imprisoned at the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, an arduous journey for Bartal, who testified that she is battling colon cancer. I would like to be able to see and hug them, not in the jail, said the 85-year-old Teresita Berlot, Jose's older sister. I want them to come home so I can hug and see them. Kitty's older sister, Joan Vandermolen, who turned 93 Tuesday, also said she wants her nephews home and spoke about the unrelenting sexual, emotional, and physical abuse they suffered at the hands of their parents before the sensational murders took place. The brothers' attorneys have submitted papers requesting clemency from California Governor Gavin Newsom, who indicated that out of respect for Hokeman, he will wait for the new top prosecutor to review the case. Their case has taken on international interest with a Ryan Murphy Netflix drama series that the Menendez family has planned. So, that's the update on the habeas corpus for Eva, my dear. I appreciate y'all all being here. And so now we're going to pull up the YouTubes again. So I don't know if you remember. Were you going to say something?
Go for it.
Okay. I was just going to say, I don't know if you remember, but they referenced them saying something in an interview from jail that made the judge decide not to let any of that evidence entered? Well, I found an interview of them with Rosie O'Donnell, and I'm questioning if that might be the interview and what was mentioned, if this might tell us what was mentioned that made the judge change their mind and not let the sexual abuse allegations be presented to the second jury. So we'll see what they have to say about this. This is from Court.
It is one of Court TV.
This is from Court TV, and it's titled Lyle Menendez and Rosie O'Donnell Jailhouse Calls Exclusive. So again, I'm questioning if this is what they referenced in him talking to the media, and then the judge saying if he didn't take the stand, they weren't going to allow the sexual abuse evidence to be entered. I'm wondering if this is what that was in reference to.
These most legendary trials, the Menendez brothers, Lyle and Eric. In 1989, their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, were murdered. It was a shocking crime scene that looked like a mob hit.
When they say Kitty, referencing the mother, I keep thinking of that 70s show. And her laugh.
Jose and Kitty were shot several times with a shotgun as they sat on their couch eating ice cream and watching a movie. At first, Lyle and Eric were treated as victims. But when their therapist's ex came forward with information that the brothers had confessed during therapy sessions, everything changed. Eventually, the brothers were charged. At trial, they claimed to be the victims of sex abuse and violence. The first jury could not reach a unanimous verdict, and there was a mistrial. But when they were retried, they were convicted and sentenced to life without parole. Tonight, the brothers have a new advocate who is calling for them to be released from prison, Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie has spent time with them and recently released an interview with Lyle on her podcast. And tonight, Rosie O'Donnell joins us live for the hour as we investigate the Menendez brothers' murder convictions.
So this might not be from back in the day. I thought it was from back in the day because I don't know if you remember, but Rosie O'Donnell used to have a talk show. So I thought it was from back then, but this might be a more recent happening.
The conversation you're talking about, that Lyle might have said something during an interview. I think that might be the Barbara Walters interview, because I had seen a clip yesterday and there was a section where Lyle was answering questions and he kind of talks about like the situation, and he's saying how angry he was, like that he just blew up. And I think it was like him saying it was anger that really like did him in. Do you know what I mean? Instead of saying like, oh, I was so traumatized I had to do it for my life, he said he was angry, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of came off weird.
Yeah, I want to try to pull that up. So we can come back to this, and we will, because I do want to hear what this has to say too. So you said BARBRA. Let's see if we can pull it up. Hopefully I can find a clip where I won't get in trouble. So that's from the Menendez case a year ago. Hey, Basil.
That part one. You just
It's from ABC or Ryan Bates. I'm going to try to play it, and I'll have to just keep pausing it every 30 seconds or so I don't get in trouble.
You can find a different one, maybe.
Well, I think all of them are going to be the same. Let's see. So that's this one. I mean, we can watch it. Hopefully I won't get in trouble. Hey, Basil. I've been getting in trouble. Speaking of, my video about the incident report got taken down, but
Eric and Lyle Menendez, the infamous brothers,
I have it re-uploaded, so I should be able to get it out after the live. I just need to add the description and information.
savagery of their crime, the murders of both.
Oh, I apologize. This is going to be from, I think it said Ryan Bates. Yes, Ryan Bates. Please give that person a like and subscribe. It is titled Menendez Brothers ABC Interview with Barbara Walters Part 1. And I appreciate you, Ryan Bates, for putting this on your channel so that I could access it today.
Both their mother and father seemed beyond crime itself. A hot August night in 1989.
So she's already like, you can make up your idea yourself, but we know that they are, a lot of times the mainstream media is biased one way or the other. So I'm interested to learn how she's going to paint this. If she's going to paint it to make them look guilty or innocent.
This is going to be funny as hell.
Beverly Hills Man.
Barbara Waba is so funny. She is so brutal. So get ready.
Oh, Lordy.
Of entertainment executive Jose Menendez. He and his wife Kitty are watching television in the family room. Suddenly, a brutal volley of shotgun fire. Jose Menendez is killed by a close-in shot to the head. He has 5 other shotgun wounds. Kitty Menendez's body is riddled with shotgun pellets.
So he had 6 shots. It said 1 shot to the head and then 5 more shots. And then Kitty's body is riddled with pellets.
10 wounds on her. She was getting blasted all over that room.
Don't kill my parents. Pardon me? Don't kill my parents. Were they shot? Yes. They were shot? Yes.
The voice of Lyle Menendez, then 21 years old, who tells police that he and his brother Eric, then 18, discovered the bodies as they returned home from a movie. Lyle and Eric Menendez lied successfully for months. But if their crime was a horror movie, their undoing was the stuff of soap opera. Eric, in torment, confessed his crime to his therapist, Dr. Jerome Oziel.
So, I mean, if he confessed purposely, did he know about not attorney, but, you know, that the therapist wasn't supposed to say anything? Or was it genuine remorse or guilt?
He was under the impression that the guy wasn't allowed to say anything. And he was still under that impression when the girlfriend was there with the therapist.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clearing that up.
Lyle then also admitted to the murders. Their confession was overheard by Oziel's mistress, Judalon Smith, and she went to the police. Lyle was arrested.
So there was the mistress. Hold on, let me rewind to catch that part one more time.
Lyle then also admitted to the murders. Their confession was overheard by Oziel's mistress, Judalon Smith.
So it was the therapist's mistress. Oh, wow. I thought it was one of the boys' mistresses. Wow, that changes things. So he brought his girlfriend in to hear. Okay, well, that was a setup if I ever saw one. What the hell? Dang it, Bobby. It's your boogie, Zaya.
And she went to the police. Lyle was 3 years later. The Menendez brothers went on trial for their lives.
Yeah, buckshot is what I'm thinking, bad girl. And the fact that he also came back and willingly surrendered should speak to his character too, and all of this, because depending on what country he was in, he might not have even had to come back. And that again is telling me that he's protective of his little brother, because he was more than likely not gonna let him stand trial by himself.
I was just firing as I went into the room. I just started firing.
In what direction?
In front of me.
What was in front of you?
My parents.
And I remember firing directly at him.
You reloaded? Is that yes?
Yes.
And what did you do after you reloaded?
I ran around and shot my mom.
This is the woman who gave birth to them. This is what they did to their mother.
The
I
jury
apologize about that. Definitely a big trigger warning. He did seem emotional, though.
tapes of the brothers' confession to Dr. Oziel. When
We just talked about that. That was the part that I had spoken out loud to you guys. It was coming up on the screen, but very hard to hear. I think that confession was obtained in an illegal way. So I don't think that should be admissible. But it is evidentiary value. So I'm kind of torn.
Their turn came, Eric and Lyle Menendez told a wrapped courtroom that the murder of their parents was an act of self-defense. They said they were in fear of their lives from a controlling father who had been sexually abusing them.
He raped me.
Did you cry?
Yes.
Did you bleed?
Yes.
Were you scared?
Very.
Lyle said his abuse stopped when he was 8, but that he didn't know until just before the murders that Eric was being...
So why is she asking him, did you cry? Did you bleed? Like, my God. My good God. Do we need to know all of that?
Piece of work.
Yeah. What the Sam hell? Like, I don't think we necessarily needed... I mean, I don't know. That's weird.
being molested too.
What do you believe was the originating cause of you and your brother ultimately winding up shooting your parents?
Me telling.
You telling what?
Me telling Lyle that my dad had been molesting me.
The brothers' testimony was compelling and effective. Relatives testified on their behalf about incidents in which their father treated the sons harshly, though none of them could actually confirm the allegations of sexual abuse. The jurors could not
But I thought the cousin did. Well, I mean, she said that he told him that, and I mean, let's go down the avenue of like, okay, you're really mad at your parents, you want the money, so you're going to try to say they did something they didn't actually do. Well, how many years had you planned that? Because, like, did they just start admitting these things to people in the past year or so, or had it been a long time? Would be my question if I was going to go down that avenue. That would be my concern with that. Shabugi said they're showing 1996, but the showing is in 1996, but they're showing clips from the first trial. Yeah. Abella said, I guess to drill it into their jury's ears. Yeah, to make them feel some, emotional about it. But my goodness, that was graphic.
decide between verdicts of murder and manslaughter.
I find that the jury is hopelessly deadlocked, and the court declares a mistrial.
In August of 1995, now 6 years after their parents' murders, the Menendez brothers went on trial again. This time, there were no video cameras. Eric testified, but Lyle chose not to. Judge Stanley.
So that was when he wanted him to testify, and Lyle did not. And that was, how can you hold that over somebody is another question I have, like saying, okay, if you don't testify, I'm not going to let them know about all this abuse you suffered. Like, how can you hold that over somebody's head? Shabugi said the first one was in 1993. That was the first trial.
Stanley Weisberg again presided, but in a major blow for them, limited the brothers' claims to self-defense.
See, that's weird. How are you holding that over somebody's head? Yeah, their testimonies are pretty convincing. I agree about Anders.
I would suggest saying, like, just the first maybe 5 to 10 minutes later of Eric's testimony, you can tell from just the first 5 to 10 minutes that he's being completely honest. It's unreal. Like, it's so obvious he's being truthful there.
Okay. Yeah, I have that in my playlist, so we can watch that.
Fewer grounds this time for a possible verdict of manslaughter. The jury deliberated for less than 4 days. The verdict? Lyle and Eric Menendez, both guilty of first-degree murder. The jury spent 3 more days deciding between life and death. The verdict here was life in prison with no parole.
That's harsh for an 18-year-old and 21-year-old, I do believe. I think that's harsh. I mean, again, I'm just extremely bothered by the fact that they weren't given all the evidence. I hate that kind of stuff.
The Menendez brothers have spent more than 6 years in this building, the Los Angeles County Jail. Eric lives in the identical cell next to this one. It measures 7.5 by 9 feet. Lyle's cell in another wing of the jail is slightly smaller. Both.
So now we know that they were in the same jail, but not close to each other, from what I'm assuming.
Brothers are segregated from the general population. Each of the brothers separately is allowed up to 3 hours of exercise a week on the jail's roof. Eric and Lyle Menendez will be moved to state prison, perhaps even to separate prisons this summer. Our interview took place in the...
Okay, so I assume that they were moved to separate prisons after this. Yeah, you're exactly right about that, bad girl.
Jail's administrative wing, some distance from their cells. You may find Eric and Lyle Menendez to be cunning and manipulative, as their second jury seems to have, pronouncing them guilty of first-degree murder. Or, like many of the jurors at their first trial, you may decide that they are credible and that their story strikes a sympathetic chord. That is perhaps for you to determine. My job...
I mean, but you're being kind of biased right now, I think, in my opinion.
...is to ask the questions, beginning with this.
Okay, so let's ask the questions in a non-leading way.
This one. What went through your minds when you heard that verdict? First degree murder, guilty.
That I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison without any possibility of ever getting released. And you're devastated. I was devastated.
I've noticed how well-spoken they are, and of course they grew up with privilege and probably the best schools, but I admire how well-spoken they are.
Could have been death. Did you think that?
I was terrified that they would give either one of us death, and that's scary.
And to hear them say how important it was for them to be together and know that they were later separated is devastating as well. Abella said sentences are so different from each other. Some people get a slap on the wrist. Others get extremely harsh sentences. Not saying some aren't deserved, just an observation. I agree. And then Shabugi said, imagine letting a cold-blooded unaliver go free OJ, despite a history of domestic violence against the victim, but proven abused boys get thrown under the prison, right? And Bad Girl said, I think all the evidence should be presented and let a jury decide. That makes it fair. Me and you are on the same page, love.
The family that Eric and I grew up in, we had to be there for each other throughout, and it really created a bond that gets us through very rough periods.
Some people might say, why should we put them together? I mean, look what they did. They should be punished as much as possible. Let's separate them. What do you say to that? You know people will say that, son.
You know people will say that, son? What the hell? Why did she call him son?
There's nothing to say to that. What we did, it was awful, and I wish I could go back. We will spend the rest of our life in prison.
So it seems like Lyle is always, Eric is always looking towards Lyle, and Lyle is taking the lead, which again corroborates their testimony. And his confession where he was talking about, he kind of took the lead in things. And to know that they're talking about this and then they get separated shortly hereafter is sad.
But if we're not put in the same prison, there's a good probability I will never see him again. And some things that you cannot take, and there's some things that you can endure. With everything taken away, it'd be the last, it's the last thing you can take.
And they took it.
Do you think the media has portrayed you fairly? Can you tell?
I don't know if anyone can be portrayed fairly in the media, who they are.
Well, let me say it.
Dang if that wasn't an accurate statement, even to this very day. Tiana says she was rude and inconsiderate when asking questions. Borderline disrespectful, I feel. These men went through abuse. I agree. She does seem that way.
There are people, a great number of people, who think that you two are spoiled brats, that you are evil, that you are monsters.
Yeah, this is not the way we conduct interviews now at all, whatsoever.
What do you say to them?
That's not who I am, but I can't defend that. Because I came from a family of wealth, it doesn't make me spoiled. I would be surprised if anybody that was present at the trial and saw the whole thing rather than snippets on the news would feel that.
A jury.
Yep. And to know that the second jury was not allowed all of that, again, you have to question, was that done on purpose? Abilla says Barbara was known to say some odd things. What kind of tree would you be? What? That is weird. Shabugi said, yeah, she's special. Very tenacious interviewer. But that's why she's a legend. Yeah, no doubt. And Bad Girl says, I don't miss Barbara. She had a nasty attitude. I agree.
Jury found you both guilty.
Right, but I don't think you aren't guilty because they found you spoiled.
Or evil.
Or evil. Just a normal, I'm just a normal kid.
Oh, Eric, you're a normal kid who killed your parents.
Yeah, I know.
What the Sam Hill? Ma'am.
And you still say you're a normal kid?
Well, I didn't have normal experiences, but I am. I did that, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about what happened and wish that I could take that moment back.
I mean, he can't help that he was born into privilege. I'm sure a lot of us would love to have been born into privilege, but that's not something he had any control over, and he did not have any control over the abuse he was suffering either.
Change what happened, but it's hard to live with that.
Do you feel remorse?
Tremendous remorse. And I think there's tremendous pain. I mean,
He's looking to the side and down to the, I think it was the, what would it be? To the right when he said that, which I do believe is indicative of remembering. I think it's when you look up, it's when you're thinking of a lie. And when you look down, it's supposed to be that you're like remembering, if I'm not mistaken. And he seemed legitimate when he stated that he felt remorse just now, to me.
from the second that I got back to the house after the shootings, I saw what happened and I said, this is wrong. This is awful. How could this have happened? I couldn't accept it.
You couldn't accept it, but you called the police. You pretended that you hadn't done it. You cried. You went off on a spending spree. I mean, we all read about it. You bought Rolexes, you bought cars, you didn't say, oh my God, what have I done?
I mean, I'm sure at some point they did. Yes, the fact that they went out and spent a bunch of money doesn't look good for them, and it's not the best idea, but they were young adults with a shitload of money. I mean, that would be what I would expect from a young adult or a young teenager.
Yeah, it's like they're insinuating just because they made those decisions with the money, that the money was the only motive when they were just young and dumb.
Right. Yep. I don't like that they're insinuating that. Yes, Rubber Ramada, and thank you, lovely, for being here. Bad Girl said, can you imagine how broken she is right now? Stood by that man when no one else did. Yeah, you're talking about the wife. He was married, and then now he's divorced her and got a 21-year-old girlfriend, Lyle. Yeah. And then Tiana says for the first time they had control when they never had it before. Right. And so of course, when they have control, when they never had control of any aspect of their life, even at the, fact if they were going to be abused tonight or not, yeah, they splurged a little bit. I don't think that it was unusual or unnatural for them to do that. I mean, I think we've all made decisions that we look back on, regretfully.
Well, that's not really.
Well, I sort of stuck it all together.
Yeah, you did a good job at it. We got back to the house.
And he's like, yeah, you did a good job of making us look like the shittiest people ever. I appreciate that, Barbara.
The police were there, and it was a matter of telling him you did it, or just saying, I don't know who did it. And that's what we...
And I mean, anybody in that situation probably would have done the same. Again, True Crime Addict said they felt free. Exactly. Thank you. That's the best way to put it.
We did. And if I could go back, perhaps I'd say I did it. And part of that started from the fact that we waited afterwards, and the police did not come. And in that time that we waited, we did make a bad decision to not have to. We expected the police to do that. I mean,
You expected the police to come there and arrest you.
Yeah, they did. That didn't happen. They felt free, like True Crime Addict said, and they went out and they splurged. I mean, they were rich kids, so that's what they did. I mean, it doesn't seem unnatural to me. I hate that it was held against them to make it look like they were only in it for the money. Anders said, it seems like Barbara has a need to rub it in. Yes, very true statement. Bad Girl said, I think she doesn't want this affair to hinder his release, and I do agree with that. Yeah. I don't think that she wants the affair to hinder the release either, as far as the wife who married Lyle and then the new girlfriend that's 21 years old.
12 shots in the middle of Beverly Hills on a Sunday night, and no one calls the police. We're waiting at the house. No one shows up.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that, like, they were waiting for the police in that moment before they called 911. That's interesting. Just a little bit.
I still can't believe it.
So you called the police, but at that point, you had already decided
We had decided
that
not
you
to.
weren't going to say anything.
We were very stunned, and we felt that we would go to jail, obviously, and it was a selfish reason to just not want to have to go through that.
What about spending the money? Cars, watches.
Tiana said, they spent just a little bit.
Invested in businesses, the good life.
Well, it was the same life before or afterwards.
With more money.
Right, exactly. That was what they were used to. It was the same life regardless.
With more money, but I didn't know what to do with the money. I got to a point where I have all this money and so much pain. I don't know what to do with it. And eventually...
I don't know, you're losing me.
Ma'am, stop it.
I would think that you would be in such grief that you wouldn't be able to buy Rolexes and invest in businesses.
I mean, money... Yeah, you could be in grief and still spend a shitload of money. Some people, like myself, when I get really upset, I like to go shopping. I don't have the money to do it, but going shopping makes me feel better when I'm upset.
Explain to me. Let me
I
understand. I'm the public.
I don't think that it's understandable. I mean, people react to some traumatic event like that in different ways.
You went to your psychologist, Dr. Oziel, and told him.
I don't know if there's any money left when they get out. I don't know how that would work, Abellis.
No, when you're convicted of murder like that, that money automatically goes down to the next of kin. So it went to some other family members.
Okay. Thank you for that. Rubber said, wasn't there a trust? So I'm guessing that the answer to that is probably, but it probably went to another family member. And then True Crime Addict said, in the 90s, we didn't pussyfoot around when kids or young adults. It was harder on kids back in the 70s, 50s, etc. It's just different. Children used to get up and work before school. They absolutely did. Yep. You're absolutely right.
committed this crime?
It got to a point where I could no longer live. I felt that I was the worst person on earth, and it got to a point where I couldn't live with myself anymore, and I needed help. And so I went to him, and that is what the catalyst was for me getting arrested and lying.
You've had a lot of therapy.
So they went to talk about their guilt and remorse, and that was how they got arrested. Wow. How devastating.
6 years of intense therapy.
How are you different than the man who came in here?
I'm 6 years older. I'm a lot more mature. I came in here as an 18-year-old kid who didn't know anything about
What did you
life.
learn about yourself?
I learned that I learned what love was about. I learned what love was about because of my grandmother, because of all my relatives who didn't say, "I can't believe you did this." Instead, they said, "Eric, I know who you are. You're not this type of person. You're not the type of person who could do this."
So that's interesting, the love they still felt from the same family members. Baby Girl says, I saw the first trial and sorry I disagree with y'all. They were adults. Barbara was definitely a skilled interviewer. I hope you will respect my opinion. I didn't say all I felt. No, Baby Girl, you're good. I like people who have differing opinions. Because if you explain to me your opinion and why you feel that way, you never know. Like, I might change my mind on how I feel. My channel is about being open and accepting of other people's opinions. And I appreciate the fact that you felt comfortable enough to share. Please, if you have more to say, please continue. So you said you saw the first trial, and I'm sorry I disagree with y'all. They were adults. So what do you think about them not letting the sexual abuse evidence be entered into the second trial? I would love to know your thoughts on that. Would be my next question. And I definitely respect your opinion, for sure. We're very accepting here.
Do this for no reason.
Have you had therapy, Lyle?
The same therapy, and it really works to just have someone you can communicate with that's willing to listen. All our lives, it was just sort of fending off things.
It almost sounds like prison was a good thing for you.
It was.
It
I
was?
mean, at first,
I wonder, to say a statement like that prison was a good thing for you. It's a hard lesson to learn, but I could see how it could be valuable to you as far as the lessons you learned now about life. Rubber Ramada said, Google says their entitlement to any inheritance was forfeited upon their conviction of first-degree unaliving. And Bad Girl says, you're entitled to your thoughts. Yes, you are. Absolutely. Rubber says, under California Slayer statute, when someone is feloniously unalived, the perpetrator cannot profit from the victim's estate, regardless of any family relationship. Thank you for that.
Killed my parents, and I spent 6 months out there in horrible agony because I had done this. A year before, I told my mother how much I loved her. I could not have imagined doing this even a week before to her. I adored her. And then suddenly you're arrested, and everyone can know you did it, and you can finally tell people, and it's
I think that he adored his mother. I think he had a lot of respect and understanding for her because he saw what she was going through and knew what was going on inside that household that he was dealing with and that she was dealing with as well.
relief.
Lyle, you're looking at your brother like you almost never heard this before. Tell me how you felt.
For me, emotionally being in prison conditions was...
I got confused, so I thought that was Eric. So my first response, to change my first statement, it's Eric who's taking the lead, and Lyle seems to look to him as far as following him, as far as the lead and all of that, and going on what he says, in my opinion.
was really not, emotionally was not a shocking difference from the life we had lived, because we lived really a very stressful, fearful life. And to me, it was kind of like, I felt I should be punished. And it didn't feel good, but there was a part of you that feels like, that's right, it's better.
You get a lot of men.
So, I mean, they do see the fact that they need to be punished, which is also commendable. Shaboogies, I do plan on talking about John Benet Ramsey sometime soon.
Mail?
We still get a tremendous amount of mail.
Hundreds?
Gotten hundreds, thousands over the years.
Oh,
We asked your lawyers to give us a sample of some of your letters. A great many of them seem to deal with from people who have been abused.
Okay. So we'll watch part 2. I'll just have to keep pausing it periodically.
Who have been abused themselves and relate to you. Lyle, what do you say?
Again, this is going to be from the same person, I'm assuming. Let me see what their name is so I can tell you guys where to go get it. Ryan Bates. And this is Menendez Brothers ABC interview with Barbara Walters, part 2. Thank you, True Crime. And Jenny.
What do you say to people who write to you?
A lot of people that have written were very, they drew a lot of strength from watching the trial and from seeing Eric and I. And I've gotten mail after the verdict, people discouraged. And I wanted to say to them to not lose hope because of this one case.
That's commendable. And to know that people messaged them or sent them letters about suffering abuse themselves and how commendable they were for getting on the stand and talking about it openly just lets you know what it was like back then. And I'm glad that people felt the need to reach out to them and let them know that they were inspired and afraid.
And this one verdict, very unique situation here, and that this does not mean that if they go get help, people won't believe them or people will treat them harshly or they'll be ridiculed. I don't feel they will be.
That's not to say do what we did. Don't do what we did, but don't be afraid of getting help.
People that want to reach out to social workers for help, but are ashamed or afraid.
Do you also get love letters?
Yeah, some.
Oh, of course they do. Charles Manson got love letter. All of them get love letters.
Find that strange?
No.
It's a strange phenomenon that a lot of love letters come in from people that don't know you at all.
Do either one of you have girlfriends? Do either one of you have someone who cares particularly about you now at this point in your life?
I do. I have someone who I love very much and is a saint to put up with everything that comes with this.
Can you tell us?
So is this going to be the wife that he ended up marrying and was with 20 years that he's referencing at this time?
Who she is?
Yeah, her name is Anna Erickson, and I hope that we can get married, even though.
Shaboogie said no. The wife that he was with for 20 years is the second wife. This is the first one. And the one he cheated on was the second, I believe. Okay.
It's a very limited relationship because of where we are, the exchange of love and sharing.
Well, she didn't say this was the first wife. I'm assuming this was the first wife and they ended up getting married at some point.
Keeps you in touch with yourself and softer, and otherwise you can become very hard and cold in here.
Is this someone you knew before prison?
No.
This is someone who began to write to you and meet you?
She wrote me many years ago, but I've come to know her well. But
so it is somebody they met in there, and that kind of lifestyle does make you hard. You have to be.
Just someone that I met through the mail.
And she wants to marry you?
She does.
Eric?
No, not at the moment.
You're not going to meet a lot.
Did he ever find a girl or get married or anything? Do you know, Shaboogies?
In prison.
Yes, he's been married.
I probably
since, 90, was it 88 or wait, Eric marriage. Hold on. He's been married for 20 something years. They got married in 99.
Okay.
And they're and that's his first wife and they're still together.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Abella said you got to have some tenacity to cheat from prison. Right, no doubt.
They won't.
it's hard. Lyle's more able to have that type of relationship.
Eric, you know that the prosecutor brought up the fact that you might have been a homosexual and that this might have caused some of the fury on your father's part.
What? The prosecutor brought that up? Oh my God.
Oh yeah, this is where it gets brutal. Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, even if he had been, what does that have to do? Yeah, I'm about to get mad. I've got a stress ball I'm squeezing right now from Dollar Tree. It's like a little fortune teller ball.
Yeah, it's like, even to this day, I feel like if someone, especially another man, hears that another man was sexually abused by a man at any point in their life, they automatically assume they're gay. I've seen that so many times.
That's so ridiculous.
It's so sad.
It is. God, that's awful. Yeah, bad girl and Shaboogies, yeah. That part. Shaboogies was just talking, but yeah. Thank you, Jen, for the trigger warning.
Yes, he did.
I didn't hear about girlfriends.
They were there.
I guess what I just have to say to you is, are you gay?
No.
What?
No, the
What? True Crime says, well, tell us how you really think, Barbara. Tell us what you really think, Barbara. Yeah, right. What the Sam hell?
prosecutor brought that up because I was sexually molested.
No, Basil is fine. He's not in here, right? Actually, he is. He's laying on the pillow. I was squeezing a stress ball. I wasn't squeezing Basil. No.
And he felt in his own thinking that if I was sodomized by my father, that I must have enjoyed it, and therefore I must be gay, and the people that are gay out.
Oh my God. I am furious. Like Shaboogie said, imagine keeping your composure like he did. No one, Bad Girl said no one would interview a woman of SA this way. They thought that, see, this goes back to talking about how people viewed these things back in the 90s. They stated that because he was abused, that he was homosexual. What? I mean, and this is Barbara Walters. Jesus. Mary and Joseph.
Out there must be sexually molested, or they wouldn't be, is what he felt. And it was upsetting to hear. But I'm not gay. But a lot of.
He said that all, or evidently, from what I'm gathering, all homosexuals have been sexually assaulted, because in order to be homosexual, you had to be sexually assaulted. Like, am I right? I'm taking it back a sec.
If I was sodomized by my father, that I must have enjoyed it, and therefore I must be gay, and the people that are gay out there must be sexually molested, or they wouldn't be, is what he felt. And it's a.
Whoa. Wow. Yeah. Bad Girl.
You know what's really sad is they also, I don't know if they both said this, but one of them also said that they didn't mind it when their dad brought them into the room when they were little, because it was the only time they got time with their dad where he was kind to them.
That's really sad, but it's
really
stated a lot by children of abuse, unfortunately, and that is sad. Goodness. Yeah, Bad Girl, what does being gay have to do with your father sodomizing you, FFS, which we know what that stands for. Baby Girl said that's the way it was back in the day. That's the way it was back in the day about interviews. Yeah. It will be interesting to hear Shaboogie's on the John Benet Ramsey case. So I guess if you're S8 as a girl, then you must be a prostitute. Shaking my head. Right. That's the correlation they're making here. Ridiculous.
It was upsetting to hear, but I'm not gay. But a lot of gay people write and feel connected to me. A problem at the trial was the gender bias that because we were dealing with males and in an incest family, that there's sort of perceptions that, well, maybe it was something that he wanted, something that he allowed to happen.
They're stating that a child allowed a father to SA them. Sarah, I'm so sorry that happened to you, love. What you were talking about. And I'm sorry you're still dealing with that. That your family still feels the effects from that. I apologize. That's horrible. How is a child going to stop it, much less allow it?
That he shouldn't be allowed to feel afraid because he's a male. I really felt that people might have seen this case very differently if it were a sister that I was protecting or that was involved in this and not a brother.
I agree. Anders, okay. I hope you sleep good, love.
You know, this whole business of abuse excuse, that you were abused by your parents, sexually abused, emotionally abused by this tough, unyielding father. But there are lots of people who are abused sexually and other ways, and they don't kill their parents. And you've been ridiculed for this abuse excuse. What do you say about it?
Abuse excuse is a word that Alan Dershowitz made up, not knowing any.
Abuse excuse. I don't like that term at all. And I'm glad that we have grown as a society to not use words like that.
Anything about the case. To simplify it to its simplest degree, if a person is raped, man or woman, and she kills the man who raped her, is it an excuse that the reason she killed him is because she was raped? Of course not. I certainly never felt that what I did was justified or right. It was just a question of how wrong was it.
That was
Yeah, she said abuse excuse, and he stated who it was, who made that term up.
a big misperception about this case, that it was about justification or excuse. And my brother and I essentially...
So they're stating that people were thinking they were using the abuse as an excuse to why they unalived their parents. Anders lives in Switzerland, I think, or Sweden. One of the S words that's over there.
Pled guilty. That was very hard for me to hear the ridicule about that, because I really felt that Eric and we could have gone to trial like most people and just sort of, we weren't there, it wasn't us, and had that trial.
What do you mean we could have gone to trial? We weren't
Well,
there.
you could go to trial and just say that I was, chipping golf balls at the time and I wasn't there. And Eric and I went to trial and said, we did this.
There were tapes. There were tapes.
Tapes became admissible because we said we did it.
What tapes of what? I mean, from them talking to their psychiatrist in private?
I fought because he felt that telling the world that Dad was a sexual torturer was killing Dad twice, and he did not want to kill Dad twice. And he fought, and he said, I don't want to go up there, I'm not going to take the stand, I'm not going to do it. And then when he did, there was a great outpouring, but there was also people laughing at him, and it was strange.
That is strange that he didn't want to take the stand and demote his father's memory more by talking about what he was actually doing and telling the truth. I could understand him not getting on the stand for that, especially taking into consideration the time period. Baby girl said, if I remember correctly, the defense brought up the essay right before the trial. I think it was was unexpected to hear that's what they went through. Most of us didn't believe it, and you can't do vigilante crimes, right? They do. This is horrible.
Eric, you were able to tell your psychologist that you had killed your parents, but you were not able to tell your psychologist that your father had abused you?
Unless you've been...
I mean, because of the way it was looked at the time. Unaliving was not looked on as harshly as a victim of SA was. Unfortunately, that's how messed up things were back then.
Yeah, like, hello.
Molested.
Of course, they're men. They don't want to admit that.
Right. Exactly.
You can't realize how hard it is to tell
Because of shame?
because of shame.
Their story continues now, the scene being set for murder.
So now she's going to get into the unaliving.
Describe your relationship with your father. What words come into your mind?
Brutal. Painful.
They seem like they're being honest to me. I mean, they really do. And we're going to look at part of the trial and see their honesty. But, like, I think they're being honest. I really do.
Torturous. And yet I thought that he was the most powerful and brilliant person I had ever met.
Because, of course, you're going to look up to your father.
Was his firstborn son. That was very important to him. And my bond with him was, I thought, strong because we had been through so much together. But it was difficult to see the things that were going on.
Things that were going on, that is, when you learned that he was sexually molesting your brother?
He had sexually molested me before I was a teenager. And it was a much different experience than Eric's.
Because you were little?
That's interesting. And I'm glad they had each other to talk to. Shabugi said, you can't go into these kinds of feelings, emotions, details of the situation if they were making it up. Right. Their stories never change. Right. Zaya, baby, you're fine. Share your opinion, even if it is unpopular. You know, I like to hear everybody's opinions. Bad Girl said, unless you've experienced SA, especially as a child, you never know how it feels. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Zaya, go for it. You know we're open here, love.
Because I was little, I guess.
You know, there are some questions that everybody asks, like, why didn't you run away?
I wish that I could have.
How do you run away from your father in a house alone with your father or with the mother who turns a blind eye? I don't know. Where are you going to run to?
This is the part
run away.
that a lot of people still argue right now with all this coming back up. Well, why didn't they run away? And if it was so bad, why didn't you go to the police? Okay, well, Jose was very powerful and had relationships with police and was very respected. So if they were to go to the police and say they didn't even know Jose and he wasn't powerful, if they were going to go to the police and say, hey, our dad is molesting us and abusing us, the cops can't go arrest Jose and put him in prison for the next 5 years. He's going to go in and be right out. And then they have the consequences that come after he's released, and they're terrified of him.
Right.
And you can't run away. That they were in control of it. The dad had financial control over them. They had nowhere to go.
Yep. Yeah, that's weird to me when people say, why did they just run away? I mean, where to? Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? Who are they going to live with? How are they going to eat? Where are they going to sleep? Like, I don't. And yeah, the police, you could go to the police, you could go to Child Protective Services, but you're still going to end up dealing with the consequences of that action and taking into account the time period and his standing in the community. If anything was done, it wouldn't have been done for long, and they'd have been right back there having to deal with it again, and worse, the consequences of having said something. So yeah.
And mind you, when they were little, there were instances. Lyle tried to tell his cousin, and what happened? His mom went downstairs, grabbed him, and said, stop making things up, brings him upstairs and starts hitting him. Like, if that happens to you when you're a little boy and you try to tell someone and that person tries to tell your mom and your mom doesn't believe you, what are you going to do? You're going to keep trying?
Right.
No.
Yeah, that's yeah. Zayo, I get that. Why do you disagree? I would love to know your thoughts and feelings on that and what you think about it. Anders says, although I think they could have left once they were adults, I still don't get unaliving the mom. I know she knew, but still, yeah, I can respect that opinion. It is questionable.
One more fact. There were Polaroids shown, evidence at the first trial. There were Polaroids of the boys completely naked with their head not in frame that their mother had taken. They were in a photo book and they had her handwriting on them. So she was taking these Polaroids of her little boys naked and then writing on them and keeping them. So it's a little more than like, oh, whatever, you know? It's even more sick than that.
I mean, you know, bathtub photos or like...
No, standing up, head cut off, just their nude bodies. Presented at trial with her handwriting on them. And also, she was sexually abusive to Lyle.
Really?
Lyle talks all the time about how he used to sleep in bed next to his mom and go into her room and she wouldn't be wearing anything and just horrible, horrible things.
Wow. That is interesting. Bad girl, I'm sorry you experienced that. Zio said, I also think this is going to set a precedent in trial that does not need to be set in law. This was the 90s and our feelings in life now aren't even relevant to that time period. I can agree with that. And like I said at the beginning, that I am concerned that it will set a precedent that other people will be released from prison or try to have their trials reheard, even though they don't necessarily need to be released or have their trials not heard. My issue is that the jury wasn't given all the evidence. So that would be my issue with that. True Crime Addict asked if they were babies or like toddlers or like, I'm assuming like a 7-8-year-old, Shaboogies. And Baby Girl said they were adults, not boys, when they committed the crime. They didn't have to go back. Yeah, that's another good point. That's a good point. They were adults, and they didn't have to go back, and they could have left. You're right about that. I mean, that I have to be fair across the board. And yeah, you're accurate. I'm so sorry, Bad Girl. I am so sorry.
When I was 12, and my father found me, he caught me, and said, "If you ever run away, I will kill you, I will find you, and I will kill you."
Suppose you left and you, I don't know what, became a waiter and moved away. You still...
I mean, as a 12-year-old, if you tried to run away and your father told you, "I will find you and I will do that to you," I would believe it.
Thought he'd find you?
He would find me and probably kill me. I thought for certain he would kill me.
You still think that?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you love your mother or like your mother?
I loved my mother and I tried to help her. My mother was a person in a lot of pain, and she was alcoholic and she was suicidal.
Did she know about the abuse, the sexual abuse?
She knew.
And didn't do anything?
Basil, poor baby. So they're stating here that she did know.
She knew, and it doesn't seem that she did anything.
Do you still think about the night of the murder?
Every day.
You both do? Tell me as clearly as you can why you murdered your parents that night.
So I want to give you all a trigger warning. This might get controversial. Zio said, I get that part. Shaboogies, was there anybody outside of the home that knew about this abuse except for the mother and the father and the boys? I know the cousin knew about it, and then the person he wrote the note to. And since then, we've had somebody from one of their bands come forward, the bands that the father was a music producer of, and state that he was abused. That's what I know off the top of my head. Okay, so here's the answer to that. 2 cousins, the girl and Andy. Lyle went to the female cousin as a child. She told Kitty. Kitty told Lyle to shut up and reprimanded him for it by whooping him.
First thing that comes to mind is terror. I was so afraid. A few days before, I had said to myself, I'm never going to let my father touch me again. After I told Lyle that it had been continuing on, I said to myself, I'm never going to let him touch me again. And just before the shootings, my dad told me to get to my room and that he would be there in a minute, and he was going to come up and there was going to be sex, and it was like an explosion in my mind.
But you'd bought the guns. It wasn't something that just happened that moment. You'd thought about it.
So is his dad so willy-nilly that he's like, go to your room, you're in trouble, and there's going to be sex and all of that? Like, I'm about to grape you? Like, is that his dad was just telling him that? That's weird. Like, did that really happen? That's interesting.
No.
You bought the guns in advance. They just weren't in the house.
Yes, we bought the guns in advance.
So this didn't just happen that moment.
We bought the guns. There was a series of confrontations and blow-ups in the house. My dad, when it first was revealed that I had told Lyle about the secret, my dad said to Lyle, "You're going to tell everyone, and I'm not going to let that happen."
Take me through your mind, Lyle.
So if they bought the pew-pews, that unfortunately shows premeditation.
I cannot separate and say this is why this happened. My father was threatening us, and so there was fear, but there was great, there was anger on my part, and my mother was aware and had allied herself with my father, and there was a great deal of confusion. This happened all in just 3 days, and
That part right there was anger in this, I think, is what part of what's being held against him from this interview, that him stating there was anger in this, which could change the motive.
I wish I'd give anything to just turn back that one page of my life.
The other big question. You killed your father, who was molesting you. Why did you kill your mother?
Oh, there we go. Here, we're about to get an answer to that. Shabugi said they 100% premeditated it, but we're talking days of prep, not months, after Lyle found out Eric was abused the whole time. Okay, so that does make it a little different because he's protecting his younger brother.
Thursday night before, in one of the explosions, I was running downstairs and I was crying, and my mother was on the couch and she had been drinking, and she said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, nothing, you wouldn't understand." And she said, "Oh, I understand. What do you think, I'm stupid?" And she told me that she knew.
So, thinking about something my mother used to tell me, a drunk man's actions are a sober man's thoughts. So if she was drinking, she probably was being upfront and honest in that moment.
That she had known all my life what my father was doing. And it was like I didn't even know who she was anymore. And I just saw Dad and Mom as the same person at that point. I saw them as a single person. Really.
And I mean, you have to ask yourself, if you thought the whole time your mother, your protector, didn't know about this abuse that your father was committing, and then you're told in that moment that she knew about it the whole time, I mean, I would feel some type of way about that too. I would feel like I had been betrayed and that they were the same person, because if you knew about it and did nothing, then you're no better, in my opinion. Shabugi said as soon as Jose threatened them, told Eric that Lyle would rat him out, they understood that as their father was going to have them unalived, and I believe it. I think that Bad Girl says, I think that they just mentally snapped and felt all alone with this horrific secret. Shabugi said he would never have allowed the world to know he raped his children. He would have lost everything. Okay. Zio says, if I thought my mother didn't know and she was supposed to be a safe space, why didn't I even bring it up to her? So I think they thought that their mother didn't know and she was supposed to be a safe space. Okay. But I think the way it was brought up was like, I'm upset and you wouldn't understand. And her response is, oh, I understand a lot more than you think I do, because I know everything. I think is the way it was brought up. And then Shabugi said Eric didn't want Jose to find out they told.
The first time that this secret about what was happening with Dad and Eric was discussed openly in the family in a very angry way. I don't know about Eric, but I completely lost control of myself. And in that time, I didn't separate. I knew my mother and my father. It was just adrenaline and fear and anger.
The anger part is what people are stuck on. Adrenaline, fear, and anger. Shaboogie said Eric was terrified of the consequences of letting it out. Jenny said finally snapped and they felt they only had each other, in my opinion. And Zio says, I'm just saying it's convenient. In that moment when he had decided he was going to unalive his father, at that all of a sudden his mother knew and admitted to it. Yeah, I think it would have been a couple of days beforehand and maybe contributed to his actions, but I do see your point as well, and I respect it. Shaboogie said, well, they had a whole blow up, whole big family confrontation. His mom says, what do you think, I'm stupid? Yeah, I see your point of view too, as well, Zio, and I can understand and respect that as well.
Lost control.
There is no explanation.
But you had,
we don't
you
offer
had,
one.
you had thought about this earlier because you had bought the gun several days before.
We knew that this could end. A violent confrontation could occur because my father had threatened my life.
You still think your father would have killed you for revealing the secret? You both still feel that?
There's no question.
Really?
I still believe that. I don't believe that he was in the process of killing us that moment, that evening.
Yeah.
But
I can understand them saying that as well. Hey, Darlene, and thank you for being here.
And I don't think that it might seem, because there are so few cases that come to the public's attention like this, that this has never occurred ever before in the country. And in fact, there are over 200 parricides a year that involve incest families. And so, I felt it completely then, and now I believe that, but I would not shoot my parents now, no matter what.
So it was a heat of passion type of crime.
How now would you have resolved it? Now, almost 7 years later? What do you think you should have done?
I would have never told. I got Lyle into this. I went to him and I said, Lyle, I can't live anymore with what's going on, and got him involved. He was way to go. They had bought him a condominium. He was going to Princeton. He had all the money.
So it's your fault for telling your brother?
I hate that he feels guilt for telling the secret.
It's my fault. And I got him involved and said, I need your help. And then 5 days later, my parents were dead.
So it's your fault?
That's completely my fault.
He was suicidal at the time, and it was just a last thing to reach out. And obviously who was going to reach out to. And
so if he thought his brother was going to unalive himself from dealing with the pain, and they are all each other has had their whole lives, I mean, that gives a different aspect as well. Tiana, yeah, my mother said that, and it always stuck with me that a drunk man's actions are a sober man's thoughts. My dad was an alcoholic, so I think that's, why she said that. Baby girl said that's it. A lot of what they said didn't seem real at trial, like they were making things up. Can they lose it again? Also, it was premeditated. Darlene says, hi everyone, I'm so sorry I keep being late. You're fine. You're right on time, and I love it when you're here too. Yeah, I gotta go soon and get things ready for Thanksgiving tomorrow as well.
And I decided to confront my father rather than just sort of not say anything and just have Eric and I leave, which if I could go back, that's what I would do. I would just say, Eric's old enough now, he wants to leave.
Have you forgiven yourself?
I don't think it's possible.
So, I mean, I wish they had done that to begin with. Said, you're old enough to leave now, come stay with me.
Lyle, are you at any kind of peace?
More so than maybe Eric, because at this point, for some reason, well before the verdict, I was resigned to bad things. And
resigned to bad things.
I have, I think, found a place where I can look forward and try to have hope and share myself more with people. And
Hope of what?
Hope
I'm feeling like he's admitting that they finally feel that they can be themselves and they feel better having got this horrible secret off their chest.
Of living a life that I can be more proud of.
How in prison?
That's my question. How in prison?
You're confined, but there must be, even just in writing, people that need help.
If you can help them and convince a single person that has been through our situation that the last thing in the world they should do is act out violently,
I mean, show it remorse.
then you find meaning in your life.
If you could say something to your mother and your father, I'm sure you have in your own minds, what would you say?
Good question. Bad Girl said, plus they shared a huge secret and bonded over the pain, fear, and felt alone. They served a long time either way, said Abellis. Darlene said other people in the family knew or suspected something. I wish they had helped them. Tiana agrees with Abellis. True Crime said free. Abellis agrees with Darlene, and Bad Girl said 35 years, they deserve freedom.
I am so sorry. I forgive them completely for anything they have done to us. If I had one wish, it would be
forgiveness of the abuse. That's commendable.
Be able to have one conversation with them or to change places with them.
I hope someday that I can be with them and have some sort of conversation about what happened. It is one of the awful things is that we couldn't communicate that weekend, and I can't.
And you never can again. It would be interesting to know, like, because once you become an adult and you talk to your parents, you see things a lot differently about why certain decisions were made that you might have thought were messed up at the time, but then you get older and talk to your parents and you get a better understanding of why things were done that way. And they're not going to have that.
Just that I love them, and that I believe, despite everything that happened, that they really loved us, and that things just went awry.
Baby girl, please don't.
Nope, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, don't say you're sorry that you don't agree. You're fine. I like to know that there's people that don't agree, and I like to know your opinions. What were you going to say, Shaboogies?
I was going to say that part really makes me sad too, because him saying, I believe they still loved us. I mean, personally looking from the outside in, I don't feel that either parent actually loved either of those boys, but they are still so desperate to be loved by their parents, even in death, that they convinced themselves they were loved,
Yep. Who was it that you said that we needed to listen to the first 10 minutes of trial? Was it Lyle or Eric?
Eric.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll play that next, and then I'll have to go for the day. That girl said, this is what real remorse looks like. Griffney Rose Blanchard. Yeah, she's, I don't even want to talk about that. That's a whole nother situation.
Our interview is over. Deputies now arrive to take Eric and Lyle Menendez back to the cell blocks. They were handcuffed and chained for the long walk back. Their legs had been shackled throughout the interview.
So again, this was, when they first started doing things like that, it was controversial to even talk about like how they were carried back to their cells and stuff. So we're going to pull up, I think she said Eric. I've got both of their testimonies, but they're like 3 hours long, so I didn't cover it today. I agree. Yeah, the Gypsy Rose situation is a whole nother story. But I appreciate you guys not agreeing and being here and hanging out anyway and sharing your thoughts and opinions. Even though you don't agree. Because, again, like I've said, you might make me change your mind with what you feel about the situation. And maybe not, maybe so. You never know, I think I had it here. Yeah. So the first 10 minutes of Eric's trial, we'll watch that, and then I'll have to go. This is going to be from Court TV, so I won't have to pause it as much. I know that gets annoying, and I apologize for that. This is California versus Menendez, 1990. This is the 1993 trial, and it's Eric Menendez takes the stand. I'm going to turn it down because it sounded really loud, and then I'll turn it back up if we need to.
Mr. Menendez, when we broke yesterday, we were talking about your mother's interactions with you over homework and schoolwork and learning. Do you remember that?
Yes.
You mentioned
this isn't the beginning.
When you were talking about that. Something about...
Okay. Excuse me. I might not have it. So he's wearing a blue sweater. Let me just do it this way. What is it called when you talk at your trial? I guess takes the stand.
I just linked you on the StreamYard.
Oh, okay, cool. Let me see who it's from. Hopefully it's a good one. Oh, crap. I'll have to... Okay, it's Court TV. So that's the one I have right here. I think.
Is that the same one? Maybe I'm tripping.
It
Just
might
play
be.
it. Just play it.
Okay. I'm going to try it because it pulled it up on my back wall. Hold on. This is 3 hours and... Yeah, it's the same one.
Just play it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, we'll find out. If it don't talk about it, then we'll have to find it another day.
Leslie H. Zoller. Z-O-E.
Oh, what the crap? Hold on.
My Eric, how you've changed.
Yeah. Okay, so this has got to be it. Okay, so we'll go to right here.
Yes, I do.
So it is the same one, I think, or it might be different. It might have been the other trial. Yeah, this is going to be from Court TV, and it's California versus Menendez, 1993. Eric Menendez takes the stand. Obviously, this one's from the beginning. Thank you for that, Shaboogies. True crime. There might be music playing. I had music playing in the background to try to keep from getting copyright strike. So it might be still playing. I thought it had stopped playing. I'm going to turn it off for this. Yeah, it states that it's playing. I thought it had stopped. So hopefully that'll keep me from getting copyright strikes because they've been gunning after my channel like crazy. I appreciate you letting me know. We should be good on Court TV.
Eric Galen Menendez. M-E-N-E-N-D-E-Z.
Mr. Menendez, you've been in this courtroom since the beginning of pretrial hearings and trial, have you not?
Yes, I have.
Are you aware of the idiosyncrasies of that microphone? If you can't.
I appreciate y'all letting me know that you heard the music. So that's good to know. I thought it had paused. And so that's good to know so that hopefully I can stop getting so many copyright strikes that it was playing even though I couldn't hear it. Testimony. Thank you, True Crime.
Ken, I think you should come in a little closer.
Okay, I'm fine. 3.5 years.
And during the 3.5 years that you have lived there, on how many occasions have you been in sunshine?
10 times. Overall.
10 times?
10 times.
And for how long a period on each of those times?
It's supposed to be at least once a week, I think.
40, 45 minutes.
What's the last time you were in any sunshine?
That's the video, not me.
4, 5, 6 months ago.
Is that why you're so pale?
Probably.
You're not sick.
No.
You don't
No,
have
I'm
any
not.
skin diseases.
No.
Do you know who Dr. William Vickery is?
Yes. Yes, I do.
And how long have you known him?
Over 3 years, 3.5 years.
And what is he by profession?
He's a psychiatrist.
And is he someone that you've seen regularly while in the jail?
Yes, he's my psychiatrist.
He's your psychiatrist?
Yes.
I think you better come kind of closer. And does
Microphones back then just aren't what they are today. Weren't what they are today.
Dr. Vickery have you under a prescription for some medication currently?
Yes.
And what is the name of the medication?
Xanax.
And what is your understanding of what it's for?
Objections are relevant.
You don't get Xanax nowadays in prison.
Roll. For so that I can sleep and for my nerves.
Are you a nervous person?
Sometimes.
And how often are you supposed to take the Xanax?
Twice a day.
And are you supposed to take it at night for sleep?
Yes.
Did you take it last night?
Yes.
Did you take it the night before?
The night before, yes.
Now, are you also supposed to take it during the day?
Yes, I am.
Have you not taken it today?
No, I haven't.
And are you planning on taking it during the day so long as you testify?
Yes.
You are?
I'm planning on it, yes.
Do you know if you will?
No.
Do you have some concerns about taking it while you're testifying?
Yes.
And why don't you tell us what those concerns are?
I've been told that when you take Xanax,
Let me ask you something. Does it make you sleepy?
yes,
Are you reluctant to take it when you need to be awake?
yes,
Were you aware of the fact, Mr.
Right, true crime? Like now they would give you a trazodone, and that's like that actually started as a medication they would give pigs to get parasites out of them, but it's a heavy tranquilizer. Yeah.
Mr. Menendez, that in 1987, 1988, and 1989, your mother took Xanax?
yes.
Do you know what the dosage is, what the size of the pill is of the Xanax that you're supposed to take?
Yes.
What is it?
0.25.
0.25 milligram?
Yeah.
A quarter of a milligram?
Yes.
And that makes you sleepy?
Yes.
Did you, strike that. How long, strike that. What's the first day that you resided in the Los Angeles County Jail?
March.
I don't know why this part's relevant. He's going to talk about some abuse from what I understand, and that's the part that's relevant.
11th or the night of the 10th or the 11th, 1990.
And was that the day that you were arrested?
Yes.
And where were you arrested?
At the
Maybe to fast forward a
LA
couple
airport.
minutes. Maybe I was
Los
wrong. I
Angeles
thought she
International
got
Airport?
into it
Yes.
pretty quick.
And
Oh, that's okay. They're about to talk about it, so I'll let it play, and then if it continues on, I'll skip it to the next break in it. Oh, this is titled "What Caused Eric Menendez and His Brother to Unalive Their Parents," so we will skip it ahead to right here. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna give y'all a heavy trigger warning. Thank you, Shaboogies, for letting us know to check this out. This is gonna get emotional, obviously, and it's talking about SA and abuse. So I want y'all to know that.
okay. ask a leading question?
What if you don't ask my dad?
Just wait 1 second, Mr. Menendez. Okay, let me ask.
No, he was in the process of answering. So.
I was the one, Bellis, I was the one that thought he was in a blue sweater, but I was the one that was wrong about that. I appreciate it.
There's no need to ask him.
Can you answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, was you telling Lyle what?
My dad had been molesting me.
And did you want something from your brother? Is that why you told him?
I wanted to stop.
Were you seeking help from your brother?
Yes.
And when you were in Israel in 1990, did you feel that seeking help from your brother was why your brother was in jail?
Yes.
In the summer of
So they were in Israel. I wonder if Israel extradites, or one of them was in Israel. I need to look up if Israel extradites, because if
No,
he came
was
back
in a
willing,
tennis match. He was doing like a tennis match and willingly came back.
okay, I would question if Israel doesn't extradite and he had the ability to stay there and not be extradited, then that would speak on his remorse and his love for his brother to be there to help support him. Okay, Tiana, thank you for being here, love. I hope you'll come back. It was nice to see you today.
1989, Mr. Menendez, did you live with your parents, Jose and Mary Louise Menendez?
Yes, I did.
And how old were you?
I was 18 years old.
And had you always lived with your parents your whole life?
Yes.
You had never been sent away to school, boarding school, or anything like that?
No.
Had you on a couple of occasions gone away to camp for a week at a time?
Yes.
Other than that, did you always live with your folks?
Yes, I did.
And in fact, as of that summer of 1989, had you taken all of your vacations with your parents?
Yes.
Had you ever been an exchange student or studied away from the city in which they lived?
No.
During the years 1986, 1987, 1988, were you aware of the fact that your mother was in a noticeable emotional state a lot?
Yes.
Were you aware of the fact that your mother took medication?
Overruled as to that question. Yeah, I knew she took medication.
Did you see her doing that?
Yes.
What was the form of the medication that she took? Was it a liquid? Was it pills?
It was pills.
I question the relevance, as in why they're asking him that in court, but I guess to show that his mother was emotionally distressed as well, and that's why she was on that medication. Baby girl says, I will say Leslie Abrams was a great attorney.
During the summer of 1989, did that change?
Yes.
Did you see your mother taking her medication during that summer, or did you notice that she wasn't?
No, she had stopped taking it.
And had, at the same time that you realized she had stopped taking the medication, did you see any increase in her very emotional states?
Yes.
Mr. Menendez, during the summer of 1989, were you being sexually molested by your father?
Yes.
And when did that begin? How old were you?
I was 6 years old.
Now, you have seen
6? Good God.
You've seen a series of photographs that we put up on the board some weeks ago. Series is 223, 230. Just in front of you for a moment. Why don't you look through those and tell me if you remember seeing those when they were last put up in this trial?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Except,
Are those pictures of your 6th birthday party?
yes.
Other scenes of that day?
Yes.
Back then, everybody drank. I mean, socially, at home, you know, I mean, hell, people didn't even know that cigarettes were as bad as they are, you know? I think they weren't even considered that bad back then. Yeah, like Abella said, and I think that's what they're trying to prove. Abella said, sounds like she was or had been abused too. And I think that's the relevance of her taking the medication. Oh, drinking on top of taking meds. Yeah. And like I said, back then, everybody drank and smoked all the time.
Now, do you know, can you remember whether or not
Just for the record, of course, I don't mean everybody. I mean, it was more socially acceptable.
molestation began before or after your 6th birthday party?
I was right around then. I believe it was just after.
Excuse me?
I believe it was just after.
After.
Mm-hmm.
And where were you living at the time?
Muncie.
You've seen the chart that we have used to identify the houses.
Yes.
You recognize the Muncie house from that chart?
Yes.
And was that house in quite a wooded area?
Yes, it was.
Can you say, Mr. Menendez, that you can you say that you actually remember your 6th birthday party?
No.
You don't?
I remember a birthday party, but I mean.
But you don't?
So these are going to be some photos of some things that might be triggering, from what it looks like.
I don't know if you remember that one.
No.
Why was that? Okay. That just showed a bath. Yeah, we're going back. I'm not trying to trigger y'all, but we're going to look at something real quick.
I remember a birthday party, but I mean.
But you don't know if you remember that.
That is a child in the bathtub up front. Like, not like, you know,
No
it's
head.
normal to have. Yeah, it's normal to have pictures of your child in the bathtub, like, you know, with their butt showing, you know, playing in the bathtub or sitting in the bathtub with bubbles so you can't see anything. Like, you know, most parents have 1 or 2 of those, but that's different. That's weird to me. There's no head in the picture. Why are you just taking a picture of that child below the waist in the bathtub, rolled over on the front? Like, even if you just had the butt with no head would be weird, because it's usually like, you know, the bathtub pictures are usually of the child playing in the bathtub when they're toddlers or babies. And you don't show anything. And it's not like that. That's weird. That's really weird to me. And this
Yeah,
one,
all my baby pictures in the bath, I'm like smiling, grinning, like
yeah, with some toys, some bubbles, so you don't see, yeah. That's weird. And this picture was weird to me, the look on the child's face. But I mean, I tried to be, accepting and say, well, maybe they were just getting a picture of the baby going to sleep or something. But then I saw that one and I'm like, what the shit is that? That's concerning.
Remember that one?
No.
They're stuck together. Excuse me.
Abella said in the 80s, oh yeah, we knew smoking was bad. I'm 65. I knew very early and have never smoked. I unfortunately smoked and I still do. I need to quit. So I guess I'm referencing the 60s and saying the 80s. I wasn't really sure when it started becoming more publicly known that smoking was actually bad. Back in the day, like way back in the day, doctors used to advise people to smoke, believe it or not, here in America anyway.
Mr. Menendez, do you recall seeing a photograph in this series of your body naked?
Yes.
Do you remember that photograph being taken?
I remember a lot of photographs being taken, and I don't remember that specific one.
The types of photographs, well, your parents both took a lot of photographs of you and your brother, is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember naked photographs being taken?
Yes.
And who would take the naked ones?
My dad.
So this is stating the dad right now anyway.
But you don't remember that specific one being taken?
No.
Do you recall when it was that you first saw or shown that naked photograph of yourself?
Just before I got to court.
Was while you've been in jail?
Yes.
How long, from the time you were 6 when you say your father started to molest you, how long did that go on?
12 years.
And were there episodes of sexual activity with your father over that last summer?
Yes.
Over the course of the 12 years, did the type of sexual activity that your father engaged in with you vary and change?
Yes.
Were there patterns to the behavior so that there were actually different kinds of sexual incidents with your father?
Overall. Yes.
And did you come over the...
That is so sad. And with
years.
I'll say my thought in just a second.
To give those different kinds of sexual incidents names.
Yes.
And would you tell us what were the names that you gave to those different types of incidents?
Knees.
Knees?
Knees.
Knees?
Yes.
That was one type?
Yes.
What was another type?
Nice sex. Nice sex.
Nice sex. What was another kind?
Rough sex.
Rough sex. And was there another kind still?
Yes.
And what name did you come to give that kind?
Just sex.
You called that sex.
Yes.
And was that you called sex some form of intercourse?
Yes.
When before your father died was the last incident of what you called sex?
In May
Of what year?
1989.
And when before your father died was the last incident of knees?
In August
Of what year?
1989.
And that last incident of knees took place in what location?
My bedroom.
The bedroom that Detective Zoller was just identifying photographs of?
Yes.
Over the course of those 12 years between age 6 and age 18, where did most of the sexual incidents with your father take place?
In my bedroom.
So there's photos, there's testimony. I mean, even if we were going to go down the route of, they're just saying this, they're just using it as a convenient abuse excuse, as Barbara Walters so eloquently put, and when they were talking about in that interview. I mean, how do you justify the photos?
Yeah, that's raw emotion right there. I don't see how anyone can listen to him, and his eyes are clearly watering. He's not like pushing it out, trying to fake cry. Yeah, I don't know if you guys watched the Murdaugh trial when he was up there on stand, but I mean, that was a shit show, right? But you look at someone who I believe is being honest, and there's a stark difference, right?
Yeah. And I can see that. And I mean, if we were going to say, but still, I think he's faking, I don't see the emotion, just to be fair across the board, my issue would be like, even if you thought he was faking, he was a well-trained actor. He's a rich kid in Hollywood. He's murdering them for the money. I can't, and to say he's making all this up, I can't justify those photos. I mean, that's just weird to me. Now, granted, I mean, again, just to be fair across the board, it is only one, and it could have been innocent if you really are trying real hard. Maybe it was innocent, but evidently there's a lot. I personally, now given my personal opinion, I think that he's genuine. I see raw emotion in that testimony. Those pictures are weird AF to me. Especially describing the names for it, like knees and rough and regular. And I mean, that's all real to me. Like, I don't see somebody making that up. But that's my personal opinion. Going the other route, I can't justify the pictures.
Starting at which house?
In Muncie.
And did episodes of sexual activity between yourself and your father also take place in the next house you lived in on Mill Road?
Yes.
And did similar incidents occur when you lived in the house in Pennington on Lakeshore Drive?
Right, Jenny?
Yes.
And were there incidents in the fancy house on Mountain Avenue in Princeton?
Yes.
And were there incidents in the rented house in Calabasas?
Yes.
And were there incidents in the big mansion in Beverly Hills?
Yes.
Can you just put this other picture? I'm just going to show it to you. This is the naked picture of you that you were testifying about.
Yes.
Does it embarrass you, this picture?
Yes.
What exhibit number was that?
Your Honor, that one is 232.
I mean, he did turn away and show genuine disgust. But again, I mean, he's saying the dad took the pictures, not the mom. So then that still leaves.
I believe there's more testimony.
Okay.
The summer of 1989, Mr. Menendez, what did you do for the bulk of that summer?
I played tennis. I played tennis.
You played tennis.
Yes,
Did you play tennis at home or were you traveling?
I was traveling.
And you were traveling to what?
Tennis tournaments.
And were these tennis tournaments in different places?
Yeah, there was San Francisco. They were in Kentucky and Michigan.
And was this series of tournaments part of the junior national competition that occurs every year?
Yes.
And what is the last place that the junior nationals is played every year?
In Kalamazoo, Michigan.
When did you start traveling to these tournaments that summer?
July.
And the first place was?
In San Francisco.
And did you stay in a hotel with your parents during that part of the tournament?
Yes.
And do you remember what town or area that hotel was in?
I believe it was in Burlingame.
Burlingame, California?
Yes.
Now let's turn to the last part of this travel in Kalamazoo. What month was the play in Kalamazoo? The tournament in Kalamazoo, the end of the Nationals.
It was in August.
Now, how were you doing that summer, tennis-wise, in the tournament?
In which tournament?
Well, let's start with how'd you do in San Francisco?
I did pretty well in San Francisco.
And then
we'll listen to this last part and then I'll really have to go. Darlene said he was extremely uncomfortable with that microphone having to be right in front of his mouth. At one point he kept moving it and they said it had to be close so they could hear him. Yep.
Next stop was Kentucky.
Yes.
What city?
Louisville.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville.
How'd you do at Louisville?
I did great at Louisville.
And after you did great at Louisville, did you sense what your parents' expectations were for the next round?
Yes.
And what did you sense about their expectations for the next round?
They wanted me to win Kalamazoo.
And what does winning Kalamazoo mean?
Winning, it was called the National Tournament, and it was the biggest tournament of the year, every year. And when you won it, you got a berth into the U.S. Open.
But how many other tennis-playing teams were in that tournament? How many other kids were in it?
128. It was the top 128 kids in the country would compete in that tournament.
And going into the tournament, were those 128 already ranked based on their previous tennis play?
Yes.
And do you know what you were ranked going into Kalamazoo?
Not quite sure. I think I was ranked 44. I know that was my ended up ranking, somewhere around 40.
And when you say your parents expected you to win it, does that mean they expected you to go from 44 to 1?
Well, not necessarily go from 44 to 1 in the rankings, but win the tournament.
In other words, beat everybody and wind up the number one player in that tournament?
Yes.
Now, there was some youngster ranked 1, wasn't there?
Yes.
And 2.
Yes.
And all the way, there's 43 people ranked higher than you.
Yes.
Did you feel it was that you could do that you were going to win Kalamazoo?
No.
Why not?
Because I wasn't good enough to win Kalamazoo.
And did you say that to your parents? Now, don't expect me to win this. I'm not good enough.
No.
Why not?
Well, my dad and my mom wanted me to win Kalamazoo, so I told them I would play my hardest, and my dad said,
no, you want to win it.
Yeah, that's like being, I think that we should all have encourage our children to do the best they can. But I got a feeling it was more than just that with his dad.
So you wouldn't say to him, Dad, that's not realistic.
No.
In fact, over the course of your entire life, did you feel that your parents had expectations for you?
Yes.
And did you ever feel those expectations were perhaps too high?
Yes.
And did you ever tell them, I can't do what you want me to do?
No, I don't remember saying that. I wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Did you play hard at Kalamazoo?
Yes.
Did you train in addition to the actual matches? Were you on the tennis court playing and training in between?
In the morning and at night, before and after the match.
And was the weather particularly difficult during that tournament?
Yeah.
What was it like?
There was a heat wave going through, and there was a heat wave when I was playing in Kentucky, and then continued over when I was in Michigan. It was pretty hot.
Did that make it difficult for you to play in Michigan?
Yes, it made it difficult for everyone to play.
Had you been training hard and working hard all summer?
Yes.
What kind of physical shape did you feel you were in Kalamazoo?
By the time when I started the summer, I was in fantastic physical shape. But after having to play and train every day for 6 or 8 hours a day throughout the summer, until I got to Kentucky, I was in good shape. But when I was in Kentucky, I almost passed out on the court because it was too hot, and I played like 9 or 10 matches in a period of like 5 days, and so I was exhausted by the time I got to Kalamazoo. So I wasn't in the shape I wanted to be in when I got there.
How'd you do at Kalamazoo?
I did really bad. I did pretty badly.
And was there a reaction on the part of your father to the way you played Kalamazoo?
Yes.
And was this a reaction you had seen in the past, or was it different?
It was different.
Now, in the past, if you had lost a tournament, how would your father react?
He would get extremely angry and yell, sometimes hit me, or have some sort of sex with me.
Sex was a punishment?
Yes.
Was it always a punishment, or only when you were a teenager?
Only when I was a teenager.
And
wow. Doesn't surprise me to hear that, unfortunately, after looking at this case, but that's intriguing. That was used as a punishment and sad.
Before you say your goodbyes, I want to say thank you so much for letting me be up here and rattling off my big mouth.
Oh, yeah, you're good. I appreciate the information you knew on this case.
Of course, and thanks, everyone. Adore you all. Have the best Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you for coming up. I hope y'all all have the best Thanksgiving. Like I said, I am going to try to be live tomorrow. Probably not for long because I have a lot of cooking still to do. I actually haven't really started on much except getting my pumpkin puree done. But I will do my best to come live tomorrow just for a little while. Darlene said, trust me when I say abuse was not taught abuse back then. Okay. Whoa. Let me start over. Trust me when I say back then abuse was not talked about. I know from a personal experience. I am so sorry, Darlene, that you experienced that. And yes, you're absolutely right. Back then abuse was not talked about openly. And they even spoke about the backlash they got, the names they were called. I mean, just awful, awful. I'm so glad that we are more understanding of victims and how horrible it is to suffer abuse like that. This case is controversial at best, and I don't know. I still have a lot of thoughts about it. If you guys have thoughts about it, or if you're watching the replay, please let me know what you think. And consider hitting the thumbs up button. It really helps out so much for us to get out in the algorithm and more people to see our videos. So thank you. There will be another video released shortly after I get off the live, but it's not new. I had to take a part out of the Stephen Stearns 896 page indictment, pages 1 through 101. I had to cut a part out of it. It kicked the video back. So I am putting that back out for whoever wants to look at it, who hasn't seen it already. And I am going to try to work on getting some more out as well. With that, I hope to see you all tomorrow for a little while. And I hope you all have the best Thanksgiving ever. And I hope you enjoy spending time with your families. And remember to be thankful and say a prayer for all of those who are missing loved ones this year. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.